My contractor coworker quit with 10 seconds notice after what our manager said about contractors. I worked in engineering contract. For a while, they were pretty open-ended, like a lot were, with a vague but not binding length specified, kind of like, this contract is expected to be for 12 months, that it is at will of the employer, and could end earlier or be extended further. But for those that do that kind of work, usually they stick to the vague timelines, and a lot of well-performing contractors get extended anyway. One day our team of 10, all contractors, managed by one full-time employee, let 3 of the contractors go, and they had me do it. Technically I was running that team, but I was a contractor too, and not in charge of any firing like that, so they were told this is your last day. For PM, me and another contractor asked our sponsor, hey, how come we didn't give those guys any notice? He said brightly, that's why we hire contractors, so we can cut them loose at a moment's notice whenever we want to. We didn't. Love that answer. Also, it was a weird thing to say to 2 other contractors. He basically told us we'd get no notice and be let go instantly someday anyway. Long story short, that other contractor was a very sharp guy. He started interviewing and got another job. He told me about it and I didn't tell anyone else. It started in a few weeks. He just kept right on working the contract job and was right in the middle of a bunch of work that only he understood. At 5 p.m. on his last day, he just stood up, grabbed his laptop, mouse, docking station, walked to our sponsor's desk and set them down. He just said brightly, hey, thanks for everything. This is my last day. The guy said, wait, you're leaving? And he just said yes, thanks, and walked out. That was it. He did also hit send on a more official last day email at the same time too. It was really funny. His work was half done. He didn't answer any calls or questions about it, and it took us like a month to figure it all out and get that project back on track. If the sponsor hadn't been so delighted about being able to fire contractors at any second, that guy would definitely have given a nice 2-week notice and worked to have a smooth handoff of his work. Comments. Commenter 1, treat others how do you want to be treated. Appears odd. Everyone got the golden rule memo. Commenter 2, I work in construction and have had coworkers fired with no notice. My boss, the owner, said that he was not required to give any notice in our industry. I worked for the company for a little more than 10 years when the writing was in the wall for me to move on. I worked my shift and found my boss at the end and told him I was done effective immediately. He practically begged me to stay and train a replacement for the machine I run daily. I told him he had 10 years to figure out a backup, and since I no longer work for him, it was none of my business. He asked why I didn't give any notice, and I regurgitated his line about no notice required in our industry. My favorite part of the conversation was when he asked if I could at least come in for a few complicated jobs that weekend. I said it was akin to breakup sex. And no. Commenter 3, respect runs both ways. Employers fail to understand this as often as employees. Commenter 4, I used to work as a contractor at Microsoft. They definitely had that attitude of, there's no difference between a contractor and an employee. We treat everyone the same, except when it came to the end of a project. Shortly after the project completion, blue badges employee will go on an off-site, and the orange badges contractors stayed behind in the office. By the end of the day, every single one of them will be let go, and usually by the same person. I knew if I had a meeting with them, I would grab a box and box up my stuff for the escorted walk to the front door, and the confiscation of my badge. The hallway would have sad, sometimes crying people that would one by one walk with an escort to the front door. When my appointment came up, they would walk into my office and notice that I already boxed up my stuff, and they would ask, I see you boxed your stuff. I'd tell them the only time I meet with you is when you fire me. This happened for years. There wasn't much revenge I could do, but any computer extras like second monitors, software, were placed in the office trash, which cost the company a lot of money. Reply. Microsoft was also the company that got in trouble for hiring contractors, treating them in every way like full-time employees, but not giving them benefits. They got in trouble legally for that, and I assume you remember the fix for it. They realized one way to change how they treated them was to never have them work more than 12 months. So there was a whole category of workers that worked 12 months, got fired for 3 months, and then hopefully could get rehire. I knew some really great workers who had great reputations with their team who liked it. They got a semi-forced 3-month vacation every year, but for most, it was 3 months of no pay. And all that stress not knowing if you could get re-signed to the next contract. Stories number 2, AITAH for not apologizing for withholding financial support until my son passed his paternity test. I 55 meters have 3 children, 2 girls and Abo, my son is my oldest and up until recently I thought he was a decent man. Unfortunately, my daughter-in-law Tessa 32F fake name showed me that I was wrong, and when revealed to me that the reason she was divorcing my son was because he cheated on multiple times and gave her an STD, she made a social media post with pictures of text messages and show video recordings of messages he left proving her side. I was shocked, and when I confronted my son, he said that she over-exaggerating and that the only reason he did it was because she wasn't putting out. Tessa gave birth to their second child 7 months ago, and their first child is 3 years old. I apologized to Tessa for my son's behavior and then yelled at him for being so selfish, intentionally hurtful, and cruel. I did not hide or downplay my disappointment and was only silenced by my wife's defense of our son. I remember how hard it was when my wife had our second daughter and couldn't believe she didn't have a shred of sympathy for Tessa. Tessa is a sweet and smart person, and she didn't deserve what our son did. My wife has been letting our son stay in our house despite my wishes, saying that he needs our support, but I say he's in need of a hard lesson. We fought about this constantly. Eventually, my son accused Tessa of getting the STD from someone else and demanded a paternity test. I knew these claims were bullish *T and so read. I yelled at him for it, and his mother came to his defense and told me a man had every right to know if his kids were his. I countered with demanding a test of my own, and my wife was offended and I moved out. She and my son sent others after me and either lied and overplay what things were like at home, and I just got tired defending myself. I was going to let things be until either my wife or son contacted my job and made hurtful accusations about a female employee that I'd been mentoring for the past year, and that's when I snapped. I'm filing for divorce. The house is paid off, so I'm willing to let her have it, but until a judge says so. I've stopped putting money in any of the accounts that she has access to and only make payments to the credit card with the $4,000 limit, so she has money to buy groceries, get gas, and pay for her other expenses. I've also changed my main beneficiaries to my daughters and told my son if he wanted a single cent of my money, he'd have to take a DNA test. He later did, and he passed, and I responded with an email acknowledgement that he was my son, as well as a copy of re-updated will where he will receive 10% of my assets. My wife and son are demanding a public apology, but I don't feel like they deserve it. Am I wrong? Edit to add. Just to be clear, since people seem to be skipping over it, but my wife called my jaw and accused one of my mentees of getting special treatment in exchange for special favors from me and other men in the company. She made such a big public stink that HR is investigating, and my mentee is considering leaving due to the embarrassment and stress, not to mention the damage to my own professional relationship. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, but get your half of the house, get a really good divorce lawyer. Document. Commenter 2. Either that or get half the house's value in assets. Commenter 3 to NTA. You now know how your son turned out this way. Commenter 4. Op didn't make social media posts. The DIL did because her husband was cheating on her and gave her an STD. OP didn't make things public. His wife and son did when they told other people lies about him and contacted his employer. I think asking for a paternity test was a bit over the top, but the wife and son sound like two awful peas in a pod. Don't blame you for divorcing her. They are both AHs. Hopefully, you can maintain a good relationship with your DL and your grandchildren. Update. Because I still see a few people writing update. I thought I'd give a little update to the chaos that is my life. In short, the young woman who I was mentoring talked to HR is leaving the company and will be suing my wife for defamation. I'm also being pushed to leave, despite HR clearing me of any wrongdoing. A lot of people in the office just give me dirty looks or keep their distance. I've also gotten a lawyer. She feels confident that because the evidence of my wife's blatant attempt to sabotage my reputation at work, I can just give her a lump settlement instead of alimony. My lawyer also agrees to a lot of you in regards to not just giving my wife the house, but rather sell it and split the profits. I'm back in the house for now per my lawyer's advice, and it's pretty miserable right now. Definitely drinking a lot more than I used to, just trying to hang on. I've also had some hard but honest conversations with my daughters, and I have come to accept that there are certain aspects of fatherhood that I failed in. I did show up to school events and spend time with my children, but overall I let my wife do the majority of the parenting and she favored our son. I just never really paid much attention, and my daughters didn't feel as if they could talk until now. However, they're still willing to have a relationship with me and are on my side with the divorce. Haven't spoken to my daughter-in-law much, but she did send me a thank you text for standing up for her. Thanks for reading comments. Commenter 1. Good news is it's not too late to try and heal the relationship with your daughters and be an involved grandparent. I'm betting this isn't the way you plan things to be, but I think you can make things better than they were. Talk to your daughters. And DILN ask them if there's anything you can do to become a better grandparent. Commenter 2. Time to fight like hell to demonstrate you're contrite and willing to put in the hard work to repair. Build strong relationships with these women. In your life, a big event like this opens up the ability to have either a lot more positive impact or a lot more negative impact. If you want to make amends, you never know how much time you have or they are going to be willing to give you. To do that, I hope the reality of things is a kick in the ass that hurts now, down the road starts to give you a life worth not just living but enjoying. Commenter 3. This is your redemption arc. Don't waste the chance to be the father they needed all along. Stories number 3. My wife won't stand up, but she will shut you down. So it happened roughly 30 minutes from now, and I knew that it was some material. A bit of context beforehand. My wife, F32 and I am 27, lives near Paris and often have to travel with the subway for practical reasons. The subways in France have folding seats for people to use, and the common rule there is to stand up when the wagon is crowded to people can have more place. My wife is disabled and suffers from chronic pain that make her very uncomfortable, and she stand up without moving for a few minutes. So she found herself a folding seat for the 20 minutes we had to stay in the subway. The story starts maybe 2 minutes after she found her seat. The wagon started to get filled with a lot of people, and because of that, everyone except her stood up to let people enter it and have a bit more space. But it seemed to be not enough for two decrepit individuals in their 60s that decided to place themselves next to her and start complaining about people not standing up so they can have more place, like it wasn't targeted at her at all. Usually, my wife don't say much, but this time she was pissed and decided to get at them as much as she could. She opened her bag and showed her CMI card for people with mobility issues to pinpoint the fact that nitrogen monoxide. She can't stand up, and the old couple instantly stopped their nagging by pretending they couldn't see or hear her, so she pointed out that she at least deserved an apology for their rudeness, at which one of the two responded, "But we couldn't know that you were disabled. It's not written on your face." Oh God, my wife tore this person another one right on the spot, stating that 80% of disabilities are invisible and that having to show her card to nasty people without getting any kind of apology was awful enough to endure. And she continued until the two retired dumbwits decided that staying at this place wasn't a good plan anymore and that trying to blend into the crowd behind was a far better idea, especially since now our side of the wagon was starring at the whole ordeal because of the 4K drama taking place in front of their eyes. Needless to say, nobody heard anything from them afterward, and they left the wagon a few stops after, and my wife stayed on her seat until we had to go. And I made sure to tell her how I am proud of her comments. Commenter 1. That's a power move right there. NGL. Your wife's a legend. Bro, people need to realize respect ain't a hard ass, but if you can't get with that reply for the whole interaction. I was grinning like a kid. I know that messing with her until she break is a bad idea since she is a sweet cutie pie. It doesn't lash out for much. It was her moment, and I was all in for it. I may reward her with some sushi at some point, since it's her favorite dish and she deserves a bit of rest. Thanks for your kind comment. I gave her the link to this post so she will surely reads everything and cackle like a proud child tonight. Commenter 2. People who don't believe in invisible issues are horrible. Whether it's a mobility issue, a kidney stone, or just a bad couple of days, people are not required to broadcast every bit of their lives to strangers. Good for your wife speaking up loudly. Reply. It was also very stupid from them to start something like that. I mean, 3 people out of 4 stood up when they entered the wagon. How in the 9 hells did they not understand that the last one wasn't doing some entitled crap? They needed a reality check, and my wife delivered. Commenter 3. I'm an older guy who looks to be in good shape, although too thin, and I'm disabled, so days I can walk fine, so I struggle very significantly. I was wounded in the Marine Corps and needed extensive surgeries to my left shoulder, chest, hip, and both knees. I've had one person, a middle-aged lady, who give me actual crap for my parking placard, who was walking along with a group, and loudly said, "So many people are misusing and scamming those handicap spots, not, it's crazy," and looked pointedly at me. I reply, "Well, not all injuries are visible, but mine are." And then I lifted the left side of my shirt and pulled my pant waistband down just a few inches so she could get a look at the nasty network of scars from shrapnel and surgical incisions that were visible. She had enough self-awareness to flush and cast her eyes aside, while others in the group either looked at her like, "You embarrassed us again," or looked at me, noticed my veteran license plate, and said, "Oh, shit, sorry and thanks for your service." Commenter for I get nasty looks a lot for using public accommodations, disabled stalls and toilets, and have not yet been verbally attacked, but have comebacks ready. Your wife did a great job. Stories number for Aita for suing my HOA after they fined me for the wheelchair ramp that lets my partner leave the house. I'm 33 meters, my partner is 31F and a wheelchair user. After a spinal injury last year, our townhouse has 2 steps to the door, so I installed a modular aluminum ramp, ADA compliant, removable with the property manager's verbal should be fine. The HOA fined me for an unauthorized alteration that disrupts architectural harmony and demanded removal within 7 days. I submitted a formal accommodation request with doctor's letter, specs, photos, and offered to paint the rails to match. They rejected it twice on aesthetic grounds and kept adding daily fines. I hired a lawyer and filed for injunctive relief and fees. Now neighbors say I'm litigious and should have worked it out politely. A ramp that makes a home usable is a reasonable accommodation, not a lawn. No me the board gets to vote on. We provided documentation, offered compromises, and followed the process. They answered with fines and a clock. If a policy blocks a disabled person from entering and exiting safely, the policy needs to move, not the person. I won't apologize for enforcing rights that let my partner live, not just exist. Comments. Commenter 1. NTAHOAs are hell and rules like this prove it. Reply exactly. HOAs love to hide behind aesthetic excuses, but accessibility isn't optional. It's a legal write-up. Isn't being litigious. They're just making sure their partner can safely leave the house. The HOA is flat out wrong here. Commenter to fuck no contact ADA lawyers. They will eat this shit up, and you too will hopefully get a nice paycheck from it. Edit FHA. Is the laws being broken here? I was tired when I wrote this and put the wrong thing. ADA website and lawyers can also have resources that will help though. Commenter 3. RYTA. Hell no, sue them until you own that home 100% and then move. Neighbors say you're being frivolous. How would they feel with daily fines? How TF is your partner supposed to leave the home? Did they offer a NY alternative? HOAs are evil straight up. You could literally buy me a house and I would never live there if there was an HOA. 99% of them are monsters and local cops often let them get away with massive amounts of harassment. Commenter for sorry. Your neighbors are saying you're litigious. Tell them to keep their opinions to themselves or you'll sue them for slander. Loan to but the neighbors are. Stories number 5. Aita for excluding my ex's new GF. I 29F am divorced with a 9-year-old daughter. My daughter's father 32M has been in a relationship with a woman named Stephanie for about 6 months and now she has 2 younger daughters ages 4 and 5. My ex-husband and I have had many conversations about how to ease my own child into their new blended family by making sure that she still has lots of time with her dad, not combining every single special event with the other kids, and keeping lines of communication open. Overall, the introduction has been positive. But my daughter has mentioned that the younger children can be overwhelming and sometimes annoying. However, despite the conversations, every single special event has been blended. For lack of a better word, we're coming up on Halloween and my daughter has trick or treating plans with her best friend and her family. Halloween is my custody time. My ex-husband asked if he could come and bring his new girlfriend and her children. I said no, as I wanted my daughter to be able to have time with her friend without having the other little kids in tow. They are not officially her siblings in any way, and I feel that she deserves protected time just for her. My ex-husband says that I am purposely excluding his new girlfriend, and that I should be more concerned that she doesn't have many friends or others to go out with on that evening. I feel like that is not my problem, man. I am advocating for my own child without having her feel like she needs to people please or feel guilty. I am not asking my daughter her opinion, as I do not want her to feel burdened with any guilt. I did also invite them to the Halloween event at her school that same week to help initiate balance. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. As a former 9-year-old many years ago, I would not have wanted to trick or treat with 4 and 5-year-olds. That's when you're just getting into the pivotal pillowcase filling candy years and running around the neighborhood with your friends. It's awesome you're doing your best to keep the peace. The ex calling it the blended family. Only 6 months into dating this person, is deserving of some side eye. Your daughter shouldn't have to give up her own childhood moments and memories for such a brand new relationship. Way to advocate for her. Commenter to my ex-husband says that I am purposely excluding his new girlfriendies. You are, and that's allowed. You didn't have any say in choosing this woman. You have no attachment to her. You're not her friend or relative. If you didn't have a child with this woman's current significant other, you two would not be involved in each other's lives in any way, shape, or form. How are you the asshole for not wanting to include her and her kids in your time with your child? Your ex gets to choose who is involved in his life, but not who is involved in yours. That's part of being an ex. LOL. This is something you need to nip in the bud, because he's doing everything he can to control you and to undermine your independence from him. You and him are no longer together. Time for him to act like it. You can cooperate together, sure, but that's where it ends. His relationship with his new girlfriend and her kids has absolutely nothing to do with you. You don't even need to convince him of that, but you do need to enforce it. Aita, I want to nail the last point home. You don't need to convince him of your stance, but you do need to enforce it. If he tries to argue, let it fall on deaf ears. I mean, don't respond at all. Set your boundary and be done with it. Do not waver, do not argue, do not defend. Set it and enforce it, and that's it. You don't need him to understand or to agree. That's not the point. Commenter 3, he said you should be concerned his GF doesn't have friends. Why? You're not her parent nor friend nor family. Make sure you keep taking to your kid and letting them know they can freely tell you their thoughts on the new additions to their dad's household. Commenter for why can't he and his new girlfriend take her kids tricks or treating? Why do you have to be a parent to the 4 of them as well as your own child? I hate these men who think their ex owes them and their new partner a friendship and blurred boundaries because of something that's fully in their control to resolve. That has nothing to do with the ex. She doesn't have friends. Okay, she can make them with other parents of 4 and 5-year-old children. None of those parents needs to be you. Stories number 6. Aita for telling my mom she wasn't the better parent and that it sounded like heaven when she said she never talked to me again. I 23F and my mom 49F have never really gotten along growing up. She treated me differently from my siblings. I'm the second oldest of 4 and she was always stricter and harsher with me. If I brought home anything less than an I got grounded. Even one beyond an assignment meant trouble. My siblings never had that rule. On top of that, she always commented on my weight. She called me the fat kid even though I was thin. She never said this to my siblings, just me. As I got older I realized she liked getting a reaction out of me. At first I defended myself, but when I stopped, she escalated and even got physical. On my 18th birthday while I was still in high school she kicked me out. By then I was already staying with a friend most of the time just to get away from her. Now, as an adult, I hardly speak to her at family events. We might exchange a few words, but that's it. Recently I was at my sister's place and she had my mom on speakerphone. I was in the background talking to my brother and he asked who I thought was nicer, mom or dad. Without thinking I said dad. My dad wasn't great either. He wasn't around much and could be harsh, but compared to my mom he's nicer. I also talked to him more, though not a ton. My mom overheard, asked what I said, and I repeated it. She snapped and said she'd never speak to me again. I said, you're saying that like it's a bad thing. Honestly, it sounds like heaven. She didn't hang up on me but ended the call on my sister, who was the one talking to her later. My sister texted me, and my mom took me off her car insurance. I never asked to be on it anyway. She added me without telling me because it lowered her own rate. One day she just said, hey, I put you on my plan. I didn't argue, but now I see it was just another way to control me. She's done stuff like this before. When I was younger she'd put my phone on her plan and shut it off whenever she got mad. This time was the same after removing me. She told my sister, since she thinks her dad is the better parent, let him put her on his insurance. I never said better parent, I just said dad was nicer. She also told my sister she hoped my car got impounded and that she could turn it off through OnStar. My car is fully paid off, so I doubt that's even possible. But the fact she said it was ridiculous, didn't need her insurance anyway. Before she added me, I was paying for my own. After she removed me I just went back to mine. Meanwhile, my sister said I was too harsh and should apologize because mom has done so much for you. I asked what she meant and she said she put a roof over your head and gave you food and clothes. That's literally the bare minimum of parenting. Now my mom has gone to my grandparents and aunts saying I was disrespectful and need to apologize. From my perspective, I just answered my brother's question honestly. Commenter 1 objectively, your mom is in awe, but your sister is approaching awe status with her comment. You didn't ask to be born. It is your parents' job to feed, clothes and house. You may want to remind your sister that your mom kicked you out at 18, and so her suggestion that a roof over your head merits an apology is wide of the mark. Your NTA. Your family mad, not so sure. Commenter to NTA: all you did was state your honest opinion about your mother who is in awe. Don't take their opinion for anything. You didn't need the approval of a family that is in the pocket of an abuser. Sorry op. You should probably cut off contact from all of them. Commenter 3 NTA: did your siblings ever notice the way she treated you compared to them? Did she badmouth you to them, convincing THM that she was harder on you because you were bad? Or were they just afraid to end up being treated like you were, that they allowed themselves to be convinced? Suggest to sister and other siblings that it's time for them to set aside childlike thinking and embrace adult thinking. They should not hold to the thinking of their childhood and embrace mothers' treatment often, and if you use their observation and sense of fairness to make up their minds. Commenter: for you must be a strong person that she had trouble manipulating, so she treated you differently. Likely she was jealous of you. She's a classic narcissist. When I realized my mother was one in my 40s at yet another ridiculous argument, I told her to write me off. I would happily be out of the family and be the shit kid. She said, "What does that mean?" And I told her I'd take the role of the shit kid. That's nothing more than a disappointment to her, and she can 100% forget I exist. That was honestly the best day of my life. I was released of her manipulating, triangulating, controlling behavior. Everything she did in her life was to get accolades. When I didn't fall in line, she treated me shitty. Tell your siblings that narcissists triangulate and manipulate everyone against each other to be the top. And you won't apologize to her, but you will to them because they are now targets of her abusive behavior. NTAN: welcome to the very free, happy, independent life as the shit kid. I never turned back. Even when my mother eventually apologized because I knew the cycle would resurface, I now have a neutral relationship. I don't hold grudges and live peacefully. Stories number 7. My car battery died, so I walked to the nearest tire place and the most beautiful guy came to help me jump it. He told me to come get the new tires that I desperately need tomorrow. How should I make the first move? So, the title basically says it all. I've been single for a while now. As I was taking a break from the dating scene, I'm 22. I was at lunch with a friend this afternoon. We left after 45 minutes and he drove away before I got into my own car. I turned the key and, oops, left the lights on and my battery was dead. Fortunately, there was a tire store very near where I was, so I walked there. As I stepped inside and a guy came to see what I needed, I realized he was really cute. I told him my situation, and he offered to walk back with me to use the jump box that he had. I happily agreed. On the way there he started joking with me about a few things and talking about where I went in for lunch. I also told him I needed new tires. When we got to my car he looked at them and said that it most certainly was time to get new ones. I got the car a few months ago, a used 2010 Civic. The whole time I could see him grinning and looking at me with that certain look in his eyes. I'm an idiot, hey, so I didn't check to see if a ring was on his finger. But with the way he was looking at me I sure don't think he is if he's a good guy. After asking me how far my next destination was so that it would be long enough for the battery to charge up, he told me that he would be working all day tomorrow and to come in and he would take care of my tires. I'll be there all day, with a grin on his face. Okay, this is where I need your help. How should I go about making the first move, assuming that he doesn't? Should I just hand him my number and I'm leaving the place tomorrow? How should I gauge his interest more? I've never really done the making the first move thing, but I really don't think I'm being crazy with this. Have you ever seen that certain look in someone's eyes? It's so hard for me to explain. I'm certainly confident enough to make the first move. I just have never come across anyone that piqued my interest randomly like he did. What if he's married or has a girlfriend and I am misreading the signs? What if he was just trying to get more business for his company? Any suggestions you have would be greatly appreciated. Edit. Why the hell did I capitalize tire store? LOL. Thanks for the advice. It has really helped. After the tires are done I'm just going to thank him for being so nice and see if he wants to grab some coffee when he is done with his shift or some other day. I'll go over there after I stop by my school tomorrow, finally getting back into that, and will update you. Seriously, thanks for being here and for your suggestions. You rock. And you, Vargas. Let's hope we don't end up in the back of my Civic. Kidding. It's a coupe. We'll have to use his. Ha ha ha. In all seriousness, I'm relationship-oriented and am ready to get back into the dating scene after an abusive relationship a few years ago. Life is good. And hell, if I get rejected, at least I'll know I made myself vulnerable again. And hopefully, will have made his day, regardless. Comments from OOP. He was definitely one of the mechanics. He didn't see me right away, and I saw him working on a car before he hustled over. Once I explained the situation, he went to the back to grab the box and told the others he was leaving to help me. You know what? You're right, and if I get rejected, well, hey, it happens to everyone. And he might just have his day mate anyway. Update. My car battery died. So I walked to the nearest tire place and the most beautiful guy came to help me jump it. He told me to come get the new tires that I desperately need tomorrow. How should I make the first move? I've gotten a bunch of messages and comments for an update, so here it is. I went into the place and he came to the front almost right away. He grinned and said, "Welcome back." I smiled right back and thanked him again for his help yesterday. He then told me he needed my info and he checked the battery for me. And if I wanted to get an estimate, he could get me that as well. So he asked for my full name and after I have it to him, I started freaking out a little inside. I have had a hyphenated last name since I was born. My parents never got married. I thought he might think I was married. I gave him my keys. Anyway, I was sitting in the lobby for a while. He was pretty busy and would occasionally come to the front to call people whose cars were ready. I have pretty good peripheral vision and could see him looking my way. When he did this, talk about a green light for me. I need to tell you this. A few times a car needed to be pulled up for another driver. One of his coworkers did these cars. When he was finished up with my car, he came in from the side door still smiling and said, "You're all set. I'll pull your car up for you now." I walked outside, totally tripped in the doorway, by the way. Embarrassing much. Hope he didn't see. LOL. And he drove my car up to where I was standing. He got out and stood there for a second. I said, "Thank you so much for all of your help." Then it was time. I had written my phone number down for Tim. I handed it to him and said, "Hey, I don't know if you're single." He nodded right here, right away. "But here's my number. Give me a call if you'd like to go out for coffee or something sometime." He blushed hard, smiled even bigger, and said, "I will most definitely do that." I think he's shy. It was so cute. He seemed to have a relieved look on his face. So after exchanging goodbyes, I got into my car and drove off. Okay, here's where it gets funny. I looked in my purse and realized that I had left my phone in the lobby when I was at a red light. Oops. So I cursed myself and drove back. He was doing something at the front desk when I walked in and said, "I totally left my phone." This kind of stuff happens to me all the time. My keys, my phone, it's true. He kept laughing and looked at me, so I walked to go and get it. Well, shit, you guys, that was a fantastic experience. I really hope he calls soon. For some reason I'm thinking he will. Thank you guys so much for the support and words of wisdom and funny comments and suggestions. You are all crazy motherfuckers. You know that, right? Edit. Went on a soapbox about my personal life. Realized it is not needed. Taken out. Edit 2. Wow, I have no words for how awesome your responses are and how absolutely fantastic I have felt today because of them. You made me smile from ear to ear the whole day. I would marry you all if I could. Right now, thank you. Seriously. Comments from Oop. Age 22. Oh my gosh. I think my face was bright red. It was very embarrassing, but definitely hilarious. He just kept laughing at me and said a few things as I was getting it too, but I can't remember what they were. Update 2. My car battery died, so I walked to the nearest tire place and the most beautiful guy came to help me jump it. He told me to come get the new tires that I desperately need tomorrow. How should I make the first move? Okay. Plot twist. I have a feeling some of you may be disappointed, but I am so blissfully happy so I won't even care. Car guy texted me a few days after I gave him my number. I don't know how to explain it, but something felt off about it. Just through the text messaging, I got a sense that we weren't compatible. Honestly, I'm a little picky and only want the best for myself. Car guy definitely seemed cocky. Don't get me wrong. Confidence is great, but humility is also important to me, so we never ended up going out. But it gave me momentum to do something else. Let's call my really good guy friend Liam. Liam is the one who I went out to lunch with before my car died, who left after I found out my phone was dead, or I would have just called him in the first place. If I'm honest with myself, I started falling for Liam a while ago, but I truly thought he only thought of me as a friend and nothing more. After giving car guy my number and it not working out, it helped me realize that sometimes I need to be the one to make the first move or be honest about my feelings. So, I told him how whenever I'm with him I feel at home, that his family felt like my own, and that I'd been keeping in my true feelings for him because I was afraid. He looked at me in the same way he always does and kissed me in the most passionate way I've ever known. This was 2 weeks ago, and it has been an amazing 2 weeks. All of our friends know that we are starting to see each other. One even said, "Finally, haha, I thought that Liam looked at me like a best friend. We have more in common than you'd think. We're both getting into social work as our careers." And apparently, he started falling from me when he first started to get to know me but didn't want to risk telling me and making things awkward. To be honest, all of this feels so natural and I can't believe I pushed down my feelings. Making the first move on car guy seriously gave me the momentum to go for what I want. I want to thank every single one of you for cheering me on as I went through the whole thing. Obviously it didn't work out, but I give you guys most of the credit for how happy I feel with Liam today. We're just starting out, but honestly I can see this lasting a while already. He always treated me so well as a friend, and it was so nice to be able to get to know someone that way before starting to date. I've been in a few abusive relationships and Liam knows about these. He says that he wants to give me all the love in the world and that I deserve to be so happy. And if he gets to be part of that happiness with me, that it would make him the happiest man in the world. Thank you. I know you wanted a fairy tale story with the car guy, but this is reality and what my life looks like, and who knows, maybe all of this will work out. For now, though, I'm taking it one happy day at a time. Update 3. My car battery died, so I walked to the nearest tire place and the most beautiful guy came to help me jump it. He told me to come get the new tires that I desperately need tomorrow. How should I make the first move? Hi there. This is an update to this update. It's so funny. I was looking up the top posts and saw my first post right up there. I had completely forgotten about it. I know it's been a long time, but I thought it would be fun to update you. I'm 24 now, and Liam and I have been together for almost a year and a half. We are currently living together in our own place. We went out for dinner last month with some friends, and our friend, Jack, asked if we would be engaged by Valentine's Day. Liam did a quick nod, but I saw it out of the corner of my eye. So there's that. It's funny how much you change in your early to mid-20s, even in such a short period of time. Looking back on my post feels like an entirely different person wrote it. Liam and I had been so happy and content with our relationship for a while now. He is the love of my life, and I'm back in school. We're saving up money and having the time of our lives. I never knew life could be this good, this peaceful, this content. Even when everything in life isn't perfect, having Liam by my side is all I want. And we can figure everything else out as it comes along. Thank you. Edit. Thank you for the sweet comments. Yes. It's been closer to a year and a half than a year. Time does fly. Update 4. My car battery died, so I walked into the nearest tire place and the most beautiful guy came to help me jump it. He told me to come get the new tires that I desperately need tomorrow. How should I make the first move? An update to this post. Wow, 9 months ago was my last update. Time seriously flies. I'm not sure if these kinds of posts are allowed anymore, considering the mega thread, but I wanted to let you all know that Liam and I are now engaged. We're planning on having the wedding in a few years, so I guess that is when I will update you next. I'm 25 now, and we want to wait to get married until after we're both done with school. We've been together for over 2 years now, for by the time we get married, we're talking about children and where we want to live and what we want to do before kids. Love is real. Guys, I never thought that I would feel this happy with somebody. It is absolutely insane. Be well, my friends. I promise that I will update you after the wedding. Maybe even with pictures if that's allowed. Keep on keeping on. Stories number 8. Aita for not buying my friend an expensive enough birthday gift. So, here's the deal. I to 7F have been friends with Lena fake name 28F for about 6 years. We met in grad school, bonded over coffee-fueled study sessions, and slowly became inseparable. She was the first person I called when I got my promotion, the one who helped me move into my apartment, and we've spent countless nights laughing, crying, and binging Netflix together. I thought we had a pretty solid friendship. Here's where things went off the rails. Lena has always been a little particular about gifts. She loves celebrating birthdays and holidays in a big way, and she tends to give people these elaborate, over-the-top presents. Think designer handbags, spa gift certificates, custom jewelry, the kind of stuff you'd normally only get from a significant other. I've always appreciated it, but I've also always been honest that I can't afford to match that level. I work in nonprofit management. My salary is comfortable but nowhere near her corporate lawyer paycheck. Usually, she waves it off and says, "It's the thought that counts," or at least, I thought she meant it. Fast forward to last month. Her birthday was coming up. She'd been dropping hints for weeks about wanting a specific handbag from a luxury brand. The thing cost nearly $800. That's almost my entire rent. I kind of laughed it off, because I assumed she was joking, or at least that she wouldn't actually expect me to buy it. I decided to get her something thoughtful instead. She's always saying she wants to be more mindful, and that she never has time to relax, so I put together a personalized self-care basket. I spent weeks gathering things: a weighted blanket in her favorite color, a set of high-end teas from a specialty shop, a beautiful leather-bound journal, some fancy bath salts, and even a framed photo of the two of us from a trip we took last year. All in all, I spent about $150, which for me is a lot for a single gift, but I felt good about it, because it was curated, personal, and showed I'd been paying attention to what she'd been saying about her needs. Her birthday dinner comes around. She invited a group of us to this fancy rooftop restaurant. It was already expensive just to be there, but I'd budgeted carefully so I could celebrate with her. After dinner, she opened gifts in front of everyone. When she got to mine, her whole face fell. She took out each item one by one, looked at them, and forced this tight little smile. She said, "Oh, thanks, that's nice." And then she set the basket aside like it was a box of tissues. I felt embarrassed, but I brushed it off at the table. I figured maybe she was just distracted by all the attention. But the next day, she called me, and she blew up. She said she was that I didn't care enough to get her a real gift. She accused me of being selfish and said that after all the lavish gifts she'd given me over the years, the least I could do was step it up. For her birthday, I was stunned. I reminded her that I'm not rolling in money like she is, and that I'd put a lot of thought into my gift. I even told her how much I'd spent, thinking she'd realize it wasn't some last-minute $20 basket. Instead, she scoffed and said $150 is what I spend on a casual dinner. You really think that compares to what I've done for you? You're supposed to be my best friend. That hurt. I told her flat out that friendship isn't about keeping score. She shot back that it's about showing people they matter, and that I'd made her feel like she didn't. Then she hung up on me. Since then, things have been tense. She's been cold in the group chat. Some of our mutual friends are on her side, saying I should have splurged more because I know how important birthdays are to her. Others are saying she's being materialistic and ungrateful. And honestly, I feel stuck. Part of me is angry because who measures friendship in dollars? But another part of me feels guilty, because I really do care about her. And I hate the thought that I hurt her feelings on her birthday. Now I'm questioning myself. Did I cheap out? Was I tone deaf? Should I have found a way to at least contribute toward the handbag she wanted? I don't know if this is a deal breaker for our friendship, but it's definitely shaken me. So rate it Aita for not spending more money on my friend's birthday gift. Update. Well, things got messier than I expected. After I posted, I didn't talk to Lena for about a week. I figured we both needed space to cool down, but apparently, Lena didn't see it that way. One morning, I woke up to a flood of texts from friends saying, "Hey, what's going on with you and Lena?" I was confused until someone sent me a screenshot. Lena had made this vague but clearly pointed post on Instagram. It said, "Imagine giving years of your life, endless love, and luxury to someone who calls themselves your best friend, only to realize they see you as a discount store option. Some people are just selfish takers." Lesson learned. It didn't name me directly, but everyone in our circle knew exactly who it was about. I was humiliated, People were DMing me asking what happened. Like I was on trial. I didn't respond publicly, but I did text Lena and told her it was unfair to blast our private disagreement online. Her response, she said, "If the shoe fits." At that point, I started questioning why I was even fighting for this friendship, but then things escalated again. A couple days later, we had a mutual friends game night. I almost didn't go, but I didn't want to let Lena dictate my social life. When I got there, I noticed right away that Lena was holding court with a little group, dramatically retelling the cheap gift story. She didn't mention the actual price, though. She just kept saying things like, it was literally a basket of random junk, like, you'd think it was a white elephant gag gift. I tried to laugh it off, but when people asked me directly, I clarified what I actually given her and how much thought I put into it. You could see a few jaws drop because it was obvious her retelling was exaggerated. That didn't sit well with her. She snapped at me in front of everyone. "Why are you making yourself the victim? You embarrassed me on my birthday, and now you're trying to make me look bad." I told her calmly. I swear that I wasn't trying to make her look bad, I just didn't appreciate being lied about. The room went silent. She grabbed her stuff and stormed out. So yeah, game night was ruined. After that, mutual friends started splitting into teams. Some texted me privately to say Lena's behavior was out of line and they were shocked at how entitled she sounded. Others, especially her closer work friends, sided with her and said I should have understood her love language. Since gifts mean so much to her, I've been thinking about that a lot. Love languages, I get that gifts are Lena's thing, but to me, it feels like she's less interested in the meaning behind gifts and more interested in the price tag. That's not a love language, that's a status symbol. What really broke me, though, was when I found out she's been telling people I'm cheap and using her, because she's always been the one spending more money in the friendship. That hurt. Because I've supported her in other ways she doesn't even acknowledge. When she was going through her messy breakup last year, I was the one who stayed with her on the phone at 2 a.m. for weeks. When she had surgery, I cooked and froze meals for her so she wouldn't have to worry. None of that seems to count. Apparently, because it didn't come with a designer label attached. At this point, I don't even know if the friendship is salvageable. I tried one last time to talk it out. I told her I cared about her, but I couldn't keep pouring energy into a friendship where I felt like I was being measured against my bank account. Her response, she said, "You're just jealous because I have higher standards than you. If you can't keep up, maybe you're not the kind of friend I need." So, yeah, that's where we are now. Part of me feels relieved, because it made everything crystal clear, but another part of me feels devastated. This was someone I considered like family, and it's crumbling over a birthday gift. I haven't blocked her, but I've muted her on socials and decided to step back. Some friends are encouraging me to cut her off completely. Others are saying maybe she'll cool down eventually. I don't know. All I know is, I'm exhausted. Final update. So, I think it's safe to say the friendship with Lena is officially over. After my last post, I tried to stay quiet and let things settle. I muted her on socials, avoid mutual events where I knew she'd be, and just focused on work and my other friendships. Honestly, it was peaceful. But of course, Lena couldn't let it go. 2 weeks ago, another mutual friend, let's call her Kayla, had a birthday dinner. I was hesitant to go, but Kayla begged me to come, and I didn't want to punish her for the fallout between me and Lena. Sure enough, Lena showed up, and the second she saw me, she gave me this exaggerated eye roll, like we were in high school. I ignored it, but as the night went on, she kept making little digs, things like, when Kayla opened a necklace I got her, Lena muttered loud enough for the table to hear, "Wow, looks like someone actually got a decent gift this time." When the bill came, she smirked and said, "Don't worry, Op, we'll cover you. We know you're on a budget." I laughed it off, but it stung. The breaking point, though, was when she raised her glass for a toast. She said, "Here's to friends who show up for you, not just with bargain bin baskets." The table went silent. Kayla looked horrified. I felt my face go hot, and for the first time in this whole mess, I didn't just let it slide. I said, "You know what, Lena, I'm done. If the only way you measure friendship is by how much money people spend on you, then you're right. I'm not the friend you need. And honestly, you're not the friend I need either." I got up and left. Later that night, Kayla called me to apologize for what happened at her dinner. She said she was embarrassed by Lena's behavior and that a lot of people at the table were shocked, apparently. After I left, Lena tried to play the victim again, but people weren't buying it anymore. The fallout since then has been interesting. Several friends have quietly distanced themselves from Lena. She's been posting even more dramatic stuff on Instagram, like, "Cutting toxic people out of my life feels so good," and "Never settle for less than you deserve." A few of team friends are still around, but the group is definitely fractured down. I've gotten multiple messages from mutuals saying they never realized how entitled she was until they saw how she treated me. As for me, I feel lighter, sad, yes, because I lost a 6-year friendship, but also relieved. I didn't realize how much of my energy went into managing her moods and trying to keep up with her expectations. It feels like I've been carrying a heavy bag of rocks, and suddenly it's gone. Here's the kicker, though. A couple days ago, a mutual friend sent me a screenshot from a private group chat Lena's in. Apparently, she's been telling her other friends that the reason she was so upset is because she actually did buy herself that $800 handbag, and she was hoping I'd get it for her so she could brag that her best friend knew her so well. So this entire blow-up, it wasn't even about feeling unloved. It was about her not getting a brag-worthy Instagram post. That was the nail in the coffin for me. So yeah, this is the end of the road. I unfollowed her on everything. I'm not going to be part of her drama anymore. I've got other friends who actually value me for me, not for how much money I spend. And honestly, that feels like the best gift I could have given myself. Final thoughts. If you take anything from this story, let it be this: friendship is not a transaction. If someone only values you when you're spending money on them, they don't see you as a friend, they see you as an ATM. I wish her well, but I'm done. So rate it. Guess that answers my question. Stories. Number 9. Overheard my dad while he visited my cat. My wife and I recently took a week-long vacation, and while we were gone, asked my father to go over and check on our cat, mainly making sure he had enough food and water, giving him some wet food and human interaction. Well, for most of the trip I only saw him come in and leave, as I have a camera set up for motion of the front door. Today was different. See, I can only see the front door and nowhere else, meaning if he isn't in the frame I had no reason to look at the camera. This afternoon he sent me a photo of our little boy eating, and I decided to listen in on the camera, and what I heard warmed my heart. Now my dad is allergic to cats, so we didn't expect him to stay long even though he is hypoallergenic. Instead, I heard him playing with the little guy for around 20 minutes. He talked to him just like he does at home with his own puppy. I had, "Did you eat all your food? You're such a handsome little boy, a good boy. You like the scratches." I almost started crying as the tears in my eyes filled because of how cute it was. I love my dad, and even though I don't want him to know I was listening, I sent him a text thanking him so much, knowing even though he isn't the biggest cat person, and he was willing to spend time with him longer than just feeding, really made love him more than I already did. I hope to be the kind of dad he is when we have kids, cause God, I can't think of a better role model. Comments. Commenter 1. I moved back in with my father 2 years ago. He grumbles about the 3 cats, but I've caught him petting all of them and feeding one of them little bites from his plate. He also shares ice cream with that one. Commenter 2. My dad had nothing to do with the cats. He was a dog person, and that was it, until Sherlock, Rascal, and Tuffy. Sherlock and Rascal were littermates, whom Dad allowed to climb all over him. When Sherlock crossed the Rainbow Bridge, they rescued Tuffy. It was so funny and cute to me that the cats had Dad tied around their little toes, even understood the law that no one is allowed to move when a cat is sleeping on them. Rascal and Dad got sick about the same time and deteriorated together. When Dad died, Rascal lay with him on his deathbed and tasked himself. A few days later, Tuffy still curls up on Dad's chair to nap during the day. Commenter 3. My dad was doing similar for my sister. When she went on her honeymoon, I was going over there to watch a movie. He was staying at her house so the dog wasn't lonely, and I walked into him talking to the dog. "What is your problem? I can't believe you. You have to be the dumbest critter on planet Earth." Nitrogen monoxide 1 thinks that sci-fi crap is better than my historical drama brilliance. Who even taught you about movies? I have to retrain you. They failed you completely. Now listen. Hobbits and vampires are not real. Those are stupid movies. No, don't you dare try to interrupt me about wizards and magic either. It's all dumb. Now listen. You and me. We're going to watch Oppenheimer. I'll teach you about good movies. To his credit, the dog didn't even notice me come in. He was sitting on the couch next to my dad, staring directly in his eyes and talking right back to him. They were having a full-blown argument. I broke the tension by taking the dog's side. Commenter 4. My dad hates cats and always makes fun of how my cats are inferior to his dog. When I went into labor with my youngest super early in the morning, my parents came to the house and just waited for my toddler to wake up before bringing her over to their house while we went to the hospital. During the 3 hours while my toddler slept, my mom sent me 6 sneaky pictures of my dad petting my cat Ivy on his lap. Apparently Ivy just plopped on his lap, wouldn't take no for an answer, and my dad just gave her scratches the entire time until my toddler woke up. Stories number 10. Husband's fetish disgusts me, but I don't want to leave me. 37F Husband 39M has a diaper fetish. I really am not familiar with the terminology. I don't think it's an ABDL thing. For context, we have been together 18 years, have no children, and purchased our first home together November 2020. For we previously rented, had been together for years. If we're moving in together, so pretty much knew everything about each other's habits and what to expect. The house we were renting fell under foreclosure and it was extremely stressful for me. He expects, and I prefer, don't mind for me to handle the big things. Landlord tried to illegally evict began July 2020 for us, and it was just a fucking pain in the ass to be constantly stressed until we were able to finally purchase our house. I was aware of the we'll call it thing, as I did find some diapers under the bed at the old house a few times and a receipt for them in his glove box while looking for the AZ pass. That the incidents were so few and far between, I didn't really pay any mind. However, I admit that my housekeeping and cleaning suffered toward the end before moving, and I guess I wasn't really paying attention or looking for or expecting anything like diapers. Whatever. Fast forward to new house. It's the week after Thanksgiving. We both work full-time retail jobs, so not a lot of time off there. We were living out of storage tubs and boxes for a while waiting for new furniture. I noticed some liquid around my husband's clothes bin, and to my horror, I opened the bin and there is a piss-filled diaper leaking out of a crack in the bottom of the bin. I was so disgusted, embarrassed, speechless. Before we moved, I had asked him if he needed to continue with this thing in our new home. Could he please be more discreet, i.e., dispose of used things and either throw out the garbage or cover it really fucking well so I couldn't see anything. I waited a week to confront him about the mess, and he fucking snapped. He told me that he has been doing this since he was a boy and he likes it, and that if I didn't like it, there's the door. I was stunned. Not the first conversation about this. He does not wear them, at least not to my knowledge. Hence I say not an ABDL thing, but I wouldn't know. He says he likes the feel of jerking off into them and using baby powder because it's more comfortable than using lotion or lube. Fine. I have dildos and he compares his things to my dildos, and I'm sorry, I don't agree. I've even caught him using one of my toes by himself, so riddle me that. I have even worn some diapers for him, but clearly neither of us were into it together, and that's fine. If that's what he wants to do in his alone time, that's his choice. It affects me when after we're done watching TV for the night and about ready for bed, he tells me to go to bed but stays in the den. He stashes things in the center console of his truck, in his recliner, and in our shared closet in the closet. They're just thrown there. I find the yellow closure tabs all over the house, stuck to furniture, carpets. Last week, the toilet wasn't flushing properly. I removed the tank lid to find a fucking diaper. Like, what the fuck? I know he doesn't cheat on me. I don't cheat on him, but this diaper thing is getting ridiculous. It is affecting my mental health, my sleep, my sanity, our relationship. I sleep on the couch almost every night. I am disgusted when he wants sex after I know he just used a diaper. He has been giving me grief lately for sleeping on the couch. We went on vacation the last week of August. I booked a queen-size bed, but the hotel made a mistake. He doesn't believe me, but sleeping in my own bed felt so fucking good. P.S. I'm now a huge advocate for sleep divorces. Anyway, he's entitled to his alone time. I am not denying him that. Just wish he would have more discretion and respect. We are both so fucking stubborn. Independently wealthy, no joint accounts, and the house is solely in my name, so splitting up would be no problem. The problem is that I still want him. I welcome comments and advice, but please be nice. Don't leave any mean comments. I do not know what I am expecting by posting this, but it is easier to vent anonymously. I could go on, but my fingers are tired. Stay well, be kind. Much love. Kitty comments. Commenter 1. So he much rather get a divorce than clean up his biohazard. Girl commenter 2. He doesn't wear them? Allow me to doubt that. LOL. Commenter 3. He's repeatedly involving you in his kink by creating stinky and unhygienic situations. This isn't accidental. He wants you to humiliate him, which you are sort of doing. Humiliation is sometimes a huge part of this fetish. Asking him to do this in private, just like watching porn you aren't into, is totally reasonable. And there is no way anyone thinks that leaving diapers in more and more annoying and obvious places is healthy kink. The lying about it is baiting you to berate him. He sold them. You know it. It's a lie. He's manipulating you to participate in his humiliation. If no one knows, it's not humiliating. He is doing this in spite of how much it hurts and inconveniences you. Stop letting him control the narrative. If it was me, I'd say, look, I know you are into this and fine. I am not. I don't want to be involved directly or peripherally. If I find another diaper or feel coerced into this again, I will leave you. Full stop. P.S. Everyone can have their kink, and I have nothing against it. In this particular, it seems too manipulative and unconsensual. Commenter 4. I'm sorry, but your husband needs therapy. It is fine to have a kink, but not disposing of his kink products correctly is unhygienic, rude, damaging your home, and just outright disrespectful of the fact others use the space. Stories number 11. Aita for canceling a date with my fiancé to attend my son's birthday. So I 32M have a 7-year-old son from a previous relationship. I share custody with his mom. And this year it was my turn to celebrate his birthday. The same date, my fiancée to 9F had planned a special date night for us, something she'd apparently been organizing for weeks. When I realized the clash, I told her I couldn't make the date because my son's birthday comes first. She got really upset, said I was putting her second, and accused me of still being tied down by my past. I told her my son is not my past. He's my present and future. She ended up going silent and later told me she felt disrespected and unloved because I chose a kid's party over our relationship milestone. We recently got engaged and she's really an amazing person. I love her and she loves me too, but I can't just disregard my son's life. Oh, I feel torn. My son had an amazing birthday, but my fiancé is still cold towards me. Aita for canceling a date with my fiancé to attend my son's birthday. Edit. This post might have just exposed an immediate red flag I was too blind to see. Thanks to everyone for your input. It's about that time I canceled this engagement until fiancé knows that she forever be my second priority. My son will always come first. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. There should be no compromising when it comes to your son. He should always come first. The sooner your fiancé realizes, it's the better. If she's not willing to share you and understand your son comes first, then both of you need to reevaluate your relationship. Commenter 2. She knew you had a child. Rethink this relationship as she resents him. Could you not do both daytime with him, nighttime with her? Reply. I get off work at around 4 p.m. I went straight to pick my son up at his mom's place. We spent the rest of the evening at the movies and went bowling. I got back home at 9 p.m. I did earlier suggest to my fiancé that we could all spend the evening together, but she casually told me, it's your son's birthday, you two have fun. Commenter 3. Your fiancé should know when his birthday is. It was a deliberate scheduling error. Red flag. Commenter 4. This is the stepmother you want for your son? Seriously. She's already demanding you ditch your kid for her and you're not even married. She will be a fucking nightmare stepmother, and even worse, if you have kids with her. Your poor son will be shoved to the side for her children. Stories number 12. Aita for not giving the stray cat I found back to his original owner. So a feral cat colony lives in my neighborhood, and I often trap them to be spayed, neutered. In December 2020, I trapped an adult tuxedo cat. I was planning on neutering and releasing him, but he was so loving. I brought him inside for a flea bath and he would not stop hugging me, like literally putting both arms around my neck. After taking him to the vet, I saw he wasn't neutered or microchipped and had tapeworms. I assumed he was a friendly stray who lived in the colony and kept him. Fast forward 9 months and a friend sent me a Facebook post on a local community page of a woman claiming she was missing her cat. A picture showed a male tuxedo and she Even said he loved to give hugs. I knew it was him, because he has a distinct white spot in the middle of his forehead. I was shocked. She said she knew it was a long shot since he went missing in December, but she was not aware of the lost pet Facebook page. Only the local shelter, who was not much help since he never made it there. He made it in my house instead. I feel so guilty because she is probably thinking the worst happened to him. I wish I could tell her that he's safe, but I know if I did she would want him back. My friend thinks giving him back is the right thing to do, but he has the best home with me and has bonded with my cat and I. In the ladies' post she said her 4-year-old daughter misses him and that he was their beloved indoor cat. I truly feel bad for the owner's daughter. However, the woman does not sound like a good cat owner. It is not legal in our city to let your cats roam, and it is extremely dangerous for them. Also, he was in bad condition and not neutered, so I think it's very irresponsible. She was letting him outside to reproduce and expand the colony near our homes. He is just so happy with me, and I would hate for him to end up missing dead as a part-time outdoor cat. So, am I the asshole for pretending like I never saw the post? Edit. A lot of people are wondering why I didn't make more of an effort to contact the owners. Looking back, I probably should have. In addition to the things I've already stated, he was infested with fleas, had scratches all over his face and ears, did not understand how to use stairs, and was terrified of my TV. His poor condition, slight under-socialization, and unfamiliarity with common household things led me to believe he did not have owners. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. If he was indoor, outdoor and an alter, he wasn't their beloved pet. He was their negligently supervised roommate. Commenter 2. NTA. Way too many people think cats just take care of themselves and all you do is feed them. Cats are living beings, not just property, and they need proper medical care. She didn't even get him neutered, which is so terrible for an outdoor male cat, as they will get into fights with other males. Commenter 3. NTA. Keep him. Letting your cat simply roam outside, especially your unneutered cat, is a really bad idea. There's already enough stray cats. We don't need to contribute more to that problem. Cats are also bad for the bird population, and it's very easy for your cat to come up missing or dead if you allow them to just roam wherever. Considering that the cat had tapeworms and wasn't in good shape indicates that it was neglected. The previous owner was a bad owner. Keep that cat. Commenter 4. NTA. I was a child whose beloved outdoor cat disappeared. Now, I'm an adult who knows better than to let a cat roam, and who has seen a 7-month-old kitten whose owner let her roam get hit by a car right in front of me. She had to be put down, according to the Nextdoor post I found. Afterwards, I have no idea what happened to my cat. I spent years wondering. I sincerely hope someone kept him. Any alternative is so much worse. And if I somehow managed to learn that they did, I would honestly be grateful to them for giving him a good life rather than giving him back, because he would have been allowed to remain an outdoor cat and may have died or experienced awful things, because even at that age, I didn't think it was right, and my mom insisted that no cat she owned would be an indoor-only cat. Someone who is irresponsible enough to let their cat roam free, unchipped, and intact, and under whose care he had untreated tapeworms, is not someone who should have a cat. I feel sorry for her child, but what matters most is the well-being of the cat, and the cat is much safer and better off with a responsible owner who takes care of him. He's very lucky that you found him. If you give him back, he might not be so lucky next time. Stories number 13. Aita. Over my birth control choices. From this point onward with long-term partner. So, for some context, I am in a long-term relationship and have 3 kids with my partner. I have been on the birth control pill as he doesn't want the snip and doesn't like using condoms. I don't particularly like the birth control pill, but it does the job and see it as something I'm doing for us as a couple to avoid pregnancy and make sure he's happy. I have had an issue with my prescription and the pharmacy have not had my next packet of birth control pills ready to pick up, and I am due to start taking them again tomorrow. It's raining heavy and it's a 30-minute walk for me, and I don't drive. I asked him if he could take me in his car so I could attempt to get them to sort it for me before tomorrow. They're closed Sundays, and he started complaining, saying he doesn't want to wait around while they take ages sorting. 8. I can sympathize. They take ages to sort it and the queues are long, but I don't particularly want to go either. I just don't really have a choice if I want the pills. And to keep taking them at the correct time to avoid pregnancy. I told him it's something that's for us, but he remained in a mood and said basically, it's a me thing. And he isn't taking me to collect them. Well, if it's a me thing, I don't even want to be on birth control. I don't want to walk 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back in heavy rain to take a till if it's only for me. I've decided in this case, but not told him yet, as I'm quite angry and don't want to snap that if he wants sex then it's rather a vasectomy for him, or we use condoms every time. I don't see why I should pump my body with hormones when he won't even simply drive me to get them for us, so he can enjoy sex without condoms. I feel like my choices are justified now, and I know he's going to complain. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. But why are you with someone who does not respect you? Reply. I feel like he's just extremely selfish sometimes and do wonder why I'm putting up with this. Best I can do for now is set boundaries and not take the full weight of things if he won't take responsibility in any way. Commenter 2. If he doesn't get snipped, don't have sex with him. He can start with the condom and then remove it without your permission, and next thing you know you're pregnant. But honestly, he sounds like trash and you can do way better. Reply. I don't think he'd do that because he doesn't want any more children either. I think he's expecting me to just walk the 30 minutes in heavy rain and deal with it myself. I'm not going to, and I won't be having sex again until something is in place to prevent pregnancy. Commenter 3. Tabit. It seems like he is completely selfish and does not have any clue about how this affects you. Add that each child is a serious financial obligation. It seems like he might be trying to actually punish you or handicap you in some way. WTAF. Reply. I think maybe he's expecting me to walk the 30 minutes in the rain so he cannot have to wait around bored more than anything else. But I'm not going to. Commenter 4. Men will do the bare minimum when it comes to contraception because society has let them. You're not wrong to stop carrying all the weight here. You are absolutely justified. If it's only a you thing, then he can only have sex on his terms. Condoms or snip fair is fair. Stories number 14. You are very likely the first person in your bloodline to truly have a choice about having children. People, especially women, are often discriminated against for not wanting children. One of the first arguments thrown at them is about the bloodline. You hear your ancestors spent thousands of years building this family line, and you're going to end it, as if choosing not to have children erases all that came before. But if we look honestly at history, we are probably the first generation who truly has the option to decide. Your ancestors worked so hard to continue the bloodline, but what if they didn't want to? What if children were the last thing they desired? But saying no wasn't possible. My grandmother once told me she never wanted children, but when she became pregnant, she had no choice. She was forced to take on the responsibility of raising a child. I can't even imagine how frightening that must have been for someone who knew in their heart they weren't ready or didn't want to be a parent. I like to believe there were women in my lineage who didn't want children or were denied the right to choose, and I hope they would be glad that I, today, finally can. EDIT. English is not my first language, so I apologize for any misunderstanding. Also, this obviously doesn't count for every single family in here, but I hope we can all understand how so many people were less lucky than your family might have been. Not everyone had the choice, even if one existed for others. Comments. Commenter 1. I feel so sorry for parents in 2025. They seem so isolated, stressed out, and just totally over it. I, for one with no kids in my 30s, keep observing a world that is more unfriendly and hostile to children. No way kids are having as good a childhood as we millennials. I feel like that is more taboo to talk about as a topic than even the decision to reproduce. Commenter 2. Does bloodline legacy even matter? If anything, at least I can choose to end the bloodline with me, the perfect finisher. Commenter 3. This is true. I also felt that over time, as I'm in my 20s, my parents are coming more and more around to the idea of my preference to possibly not have children. Just the sheer state of the world right now is a shambles, and it feels just selfish to bring kids into this. Commenter 4. That's such an important perspective. A lot of people forget that having a real choice about kids is a very recent thing in human history. For most of our ancestors, especially women, It wasn't about desire. It was survival, obligation, or lack of options. Choosing not to have children doesn't erase what they went through. It actually honors them by using the freedom they never had. Stories number 15. Aita for making my younger sisters fly home early after they followed my husband. Asshole, I have 2 younger sisters who are 15 and 17. They came to visit my husband and I on what was supposed to be a 5-week trip. Unfortunately, it had to end early after they were caught following my husband while he was having dinner with a client. I told them they had to leave immediately because I could tell my husband was close to exploding, and even though they kept begging me to hear them out and to let them stay, I wouldn't. I called our dad to let him know they would be coming home early and why, which didn't go over well. My stepmother wanted me to let them stay until the morning so they would fly back in the daytime. But I told her it wasn't possible and they had to leave immediately. I'm supposed to be visiting soon, but my sisters have told our dad that they don't want to see me, and my stepmother said I wasn't welcome in her house after what I did to them. The reason my husband was so angry is because the client was the one who noticed them taking pictures of them, and when he confronted them they were rude to her and to him. Comments. Commenter 1. Is this possible? His client is an attractive woman and they thought he was cheating on you and were trying to gather evidence. This sounds like something 15 and 17-year-old sisters could do. No. Commenter 2. Okay, I'm gonna call it. Whiteout. You're strangely reluctant to tell the whole story about why this was so egregious that it warranted immediate eviction. It's bad that they were taking pictures of your husband and his client. It's also just dumb teenager shit. It's also unclear why your husband confronted them with the client instead of speaking to them without the client and telling them to go home. Regardless, I see nothing in this that justifies why you flat refused to let them say anything in their defense, or why they had to be sent home that very minute, send them to bed and fly them home in the morning. Like a responsible adult, I mean, how does that even work? You jumped online at some time after 8 in the evening and booked them flights and took them to the airport. Like it was some kind of emergency, leaving their parents to pick them up at what late hour. Just can't see how this was necessary. ETA. Please, stop telling me why you think the teenager's behavior was bad. I already said it was bad. What I also said, and the reason for my judgment, because it's about the actual question op asked, which was not whether the teenager's behavior was bad, is that it was unnecessary to kick them out that very night. Commenter 3. YTA for including basically no useful information in the post. If you aren't hiding info that hurts your story, you sure do a good job leaving that impression. Commenter 4. INFO. Like everyone else, I want to know why they were following your husband, and for that matter, how and why you wouldn't hear them out, even if nothing nefarious was going on with your husband. You should have listened to them. Man looked at the pictures. I suspect you're stories number 16. Aita for being upset that my wife met with her male colleague despite my boundary, and for how he confronted me. I need some advice on whether I'm being irrational or an asshole here. It's easy to get stuck in your own echo chamber, so I want outside opinions. My wife and I have been together for 23 years and have 5 kids. I've been the sole provider the whole time. I've never had issues with that. All our money is joint, and I've never restricted her spending. Our kids are in a swimming club. The club was struggling, and my wife stepped up as team manager. When the old head coach quit, a new one came in and seemed eager to rebuild the program. Because my wife was team manager, she worked closely with him, and after a while she even started volunteering as an assistant coach a few nights a week. I supported this at first. It gave her something outside of home and kids. But it did change our family dynamic. I had to pick up more childcare, sometimes lose work days or overtime. I accepted it, but it was an adjustment. Fast forward, she now has a full-time assistant coaching role 5 days a week plus work at home. I want to support her, but I admit I struggle with insecurity and paranoia sometimes, so I set one clear boundary, that she wouldn't meet up with the male head coach alone outside of work. Once the kids were back at school, she did exactly that. Met him at Acosta halfway between their houses for 3 hours. I told her I wasn't comfortable. She agreed not to do it again and told him so. Then this week at the pool, while I was picking up our younger kids, the head coach pulled me aside. In front of swimmers including my kids, he said I must have a mental illness or schizophrenia for not being comfortable with my wife spending time with him. He insisted he had no interest in her, but then sarcastically suggested meeting her in a private locked room at the pool instead. My wife was right there and didn't defend me. Later I told her I felt disrespected, and while she apologized half-heartedly, I said I also expected an apology from him. She told him the next day that the conversation was inappropriate poolside, but he refused to apologize. Instead, he said if I push the issue he'll come out fighting, and even made a comment about my daughter not being comfortable talking to me. I told my wife fine, I'll drop it, because I don't want to risk her job. She threatened to quit if I made her choose. I also don't want to cause problems for my kids at the club. So, Aita, for reacting the way I did. Am I wrong for feeling like my boundaries and feelings are second class here? Edit 1. It's good to hear both sides of the fence, and I have my own issues that I admit to, and probably need help with. I trust my wife. I don't think she have a physical affair, but I do worrying about an emotional one. I know my phrasing has sounded controlling, but I've never stopped her doing anything. Up until this moment, I've supported every venture she's had, both with my time and the finances of the household, be it decorating cakes for her, as I'm more artistic, or creating patterns for embroidery, Cricut and laser engraving. Any venture she has had an interest in, I'd support it. I will show my wife this thread in the morning, as she is at a concert with friends. I'm hoping that it will give her a good spectrum of opinions, which might give validation of mine, and also hers, so we can find a middle ground. I love my wife and family, and want her to excel in everything she does, but I also want to protect her and us. And I'm pretty good at reading people. Edit 2. I'm aware now boundary wasn't the correct word to use. It was a stipulation. Not that's any better, but just pampering. Edit again. Pandering is the word. To the grammar and definition police, I would like to remind people that having no set rules in a relationship is absolutely bonkers. It is not a free-for-all. It's a partnership and a compromise. Comments. Commenter 1. Definitely not the this guy is a complete douche. Your wife needs to put him in his place. If a colleague ever spoke to my husband as this coach did, I personally would demand an apology and speak with the owners of the club. His behavior is inexcusable. Commenter 2. Honestly, only time will tell. I have friends that are male coworkers of my spouse's and we are very close. An example: apparently, when I was blacked out drunk, I apparently crawled on our buddy's lap and straddled him. Neither one of us meant anything by it. I was just trying to take a nap apparently, but like I would never take it any further than that. But there have been exes of mine that had been cheating with that type of close friend, so it all depends on the willingness to fall into temptation between both of them. Commenter 3. Wow. Lots here. You have a serious issue. Honestly, you need to go to therapy and couples therapy. You need to deal with your control and your distrust of her. Unless, that is, she has given you reasons to distrust her in the past. Now, her coworker's response was completely out of line. I do have to ask, do you have a relationship issue with your daughter? Is she uncomfortable talking to you? If he is right, then you really need some help with your family dynamic. His comments were totally out of line, but he may have done you a favor. If it is true, you need to work on yourself and possibly the relationship with your daughter and other children. Stories number 17. Mom put a Karen coworker in her place. So, this isn't my story exactly. It's my mom's, but she's given me permission to share it because honestly, it's too good not to. For context, my mom, let's call her Sarah, works in a mid-sized office as an administrative manager. She's been there for over a decade, knows literally everything about how the place runs, and she's the one everyone goes to when they need things done. She's well liked by most people because she's friendly but also doesn't take nonsense. Enter Karen, not her real name, obviously. Karen joined the company about a year ago, and from day one, she had that energy, you know the type. Super loud, always right, constantly talking about how things were done at her old job, and trying to act like she was management when she wasn't. She was hired as a mid-level coordinator, not a boss, but you wouldn't know it by the way she strutted around. The real kicker, she latched onto my mom almost immediately, but not in a friendly way. More like, she saw my mom as competition. She'd make little digs like, "Oh, Sarah, you've been here that long. Guess you're comfortable staying in the same spot." Or, "You know, if you want to move up, You should really learn to be more assertive, like me." Mom, being the classy woman she is, would just smile and say something polite, but I could tell it bugged her. Anyway, fast forward to the office holiday planning committee. Every year, my mom helps organize the company holiday party. She's basically the unofficial lead because she knows the vendors, the budget, and what upper management expects. It's a lot of work, but she's good at it. This year, Karen decided she was going to take charge. She marched into the first planning meeting with this whole PowerPoint presentation about her vision for the party. A luxury hotel ballroom, catered dinner, open bar, live band, the works. Sounds great, right? Except the budget for the party is always capped at around $5,000. Karen's vision was closer to $20,000. Mom pointed this out gently. "It's a beautiful idea, but it's way beyond what the company allocates." And Karen snapped back, "Well, maybe if someone actually fought for a bigger budget, we wouldn't be stuck doing the same boring potluck every year." Side note, it's not a potluck, it's a catered luncheon with decorations, raffles, and a DJ. People love it. Still, Karen bulldozed ahead, insisting she'd handle everything. My mom, knowing where this was going, just sat back and documented everything. Sure enough, within 2 weeks, Karen had blown through half the budget on non-refundable deposits. She booked a live band without approval, ordered custom engraved wine glasses as party favors, and even tried to rent an ice sculpture. When accounting flagged the expenses, upper management was not pleased. They called my mom into a meeting and asked what the heck was going on. She calmly pulled out her binder. Yes, she has a binder with emails, receipts, and meeting notes showing exactly what Karen had done and how she'd warned her multiple times about the budget. That's when management told Karen she was no longer in charge of the party planning. You'd think that would be the end of it, but nope. Karen doubled down. She stormed over to my mom's desk and said, loud enough for the whole office to hear, "I don't know why they listen to you. You're just an admin. You don't make real decisions. You're basically a secretary." Now, here's where my mom finally snapped. She stood up, looked Karen dead in the eye, and said, "You're right. I'm not a manager, but the managers listen to me because I know how to do my job. And apparently yours, too." According to her coworkers, the office went dead silent. Someone actually choked on their coffee. Karen went beet red and muttered something about jealousy before storming off, the cherry on top. Management later put my mom officially in charge of the event again, gave her the remaining budget to salvage what she could, and quietly told her they appreciate her professionalism. Karen was excluded from the committee altogether. The party still turned out great, by the way. Not at a hotel ballroom, but everyone had fun, and people actually joked about whether the ice sculpture was on its way. Since then, Karen has been noticeably quieter around my mom. Not nice, exactly, but she's not making digs anymore. It's like she finally realized Mom isn't the one to mess with, and honestly, I'm kind of proud. My mom is the last person to start drama, but when someone pushes her too far, she knows exactly how to put them in their place. Update. Okay, so apparently Mom's clapback at Karen wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. After the holiday party fiasco, things in the office were tense. People were polite to Karen, but you could feel the shift. Before, she strutted around like she owned the place. After Mom's, "I know how to do my job, and apparently yours too" line, coworkers started side-eyeing her whenever she tried to boss anyone around. Karen didn't take it well. For a while, she tried to pretend nothing had happened, but then, little by little, she started doing this thing where she would test my mom, like, she'd send emails CCing half the department asking my mom to do things that weren't even part of her job. Stuff like, "Sarah, please format this presentation for me by 3 p.m. Thanks, Sarah. Can you track down those invoices I misplaced? I think you'd be quicker at it." Mom, being a professional, would politely respond, "That task isn't part of my role. You may want to check with actual responsible person." And she'd CC the manager back. After about 3 of those, the manager pulled Karen aside and told her, point blank, to stop treating my mom like her personal assistant. Word is, Karen came out of that meeting looking like she'd bitten a lemon. But oh, it gets better. A couple weeks later, Karen tried to pitch another big idea. In a team meeting, she wanted to reorganize the office filing system, which my mom had personally created years ago and everyone agreed was efficient. Karen stood up and gave this long speech about how outdated systems create outdated results. And then she unveiled this color-coded scheme that was so complicated it needed a flowchart to explain. When she finished, the manager turned to my mom and asked, "What do you think, Mom?" Without missing a beat, said, "I think if we implement that system, half the office won't be able to find their own desks, let alone files." The entire room burst out laughing. Even the manager chuckled. Karen sat down with her arms crossed and didn't speak for the rest of the meeting. Now, here's the real kicker. Remember how Karen tried to blow the budget on the holiday party? Well, accounting decided to do a little audit, and guess what they found? Karen had been submitting expense reports for things that weren't even approved. Things like a $200 client lunch that turned out to just be her and her boyfriend at a steakhouse, and office supply orders that included high-end pens and planners she never gave to anyone else. HR got involved. From what Mom told me, Karen was called into a closed-door meeting with HR and upper management. Nobody knows exactly what was said, but after that, Karen stopped bragging about her old job and started keeping her head down. The office gossip is that she was put on a performance improvement plan, basically probation, and here's where Mom really shines. Even after everything, she hasn't rubbed it in. She still treats Karen with basic respect, answers work-related questions, and goes about her day, but the balance of power has completely shifted. People go to Mom for advice and leadership. When Karen tries to interrupt or talk over her, other coworkers shut her down with stuff like, "Hang on, let Sarah finish." The best part, at the next office happy hour, one of the newer employees raised the glass and said to Sarah, "The real boss around here." Everyone laughed and cheered. Mom was a little embarrassed, but I could tell she was proud. Karen, she just sipped her drink and stared at the table. So yeah, Mom didn't just put a Karen coworker in her place. She basically exposed her for the fraud she was. And now the whole office sees her true colors. And honestly, I think Karen finally realizes she picked the wrong person to mess with. Final update. So, it finally happened. Karen is gone. After my last post, things simmered for a while. Karen kept her head down, but you could tell it was eating her alive that people respected my mom more than her. She went from strutting around like a self-appointed manager to sulking at her desk. And honestly, the whole office vibe was calmer. But Karen wasn't finished. A few weeks ago, Mom got called into HR unexpectedly. They told her that Karen had filed a formal complaint against her. Apparently, Karen accused my mom of creating a hostile work environment and sabotaging her career. When Mom told me, I swear my jaw hit the floor. My mom is the least hostile person you'll ever meet. She's firm when she needs to be, but she's kind to everyone. Even Karen, despite everything. Thankfully, HR didn't just take Karen's word for it. They interviewed multiple coworkers, reviewed emails, and looked at project records. Every single piece of evidence showed the opposite. Mom had been professional and respectful. Even when Karen was rude, Karen's expenses were shady. Karen had tried to dump her work onto my mom multiple times, and several coworkers even volunteered statements about Karen's public outbursts, especially that infamous "you're just an admin" scene. It backfired spectacularly. A week later, HR and management called Karen into another closed-door meeting. People said you could hear muffled raised voices through the door. After about an hour, she stormed out with her purse, eyes red like she'd been crying, and didn't come back. The official word came in an email the next morning. We wish to inform staff that Karen is no longer with the company. We wish her well in her future endeavors. Translation: she was either fired or encouraged to resign. The office reaction was a mix of relief and vindication. People brought donuts the next day like it was a celebration. Someone even joked about ordering an ice sculpture shaped like the company logo to mark the occasion. And my mom, she didn't gloat. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just kept doing her job, like she always has. But the respect she earned through all of this, it's permanent. Management now includes her in more leadership meetings. Coworkers openly back her up. And even people from other departments know not to mess with her. The funniest part, the nickname. Ever since Karen left, some of the younger employees jokingly call my mom the Karen Slayer. She pretends to roll her eyes, but I can tell she secretly loves it. So yeah, my mom didn't just put a Karen coworker in her place. She handled months of nonsense with professionalism, exposed her bad behavior, and came out stronger on the other side. Honestly, I couldn't be prouder. Stories number 18. I overheard my dad talking to himself and now I can't stop thinking about it. This is going to sound weird, maybe even a little dramatic, but I can't get it out of my head. For context, I 22 am still live at home with my parents. It's not ideal, but I'm finishing college and saving money. And honestly, my parents don't mind. They like having me around. And it's been nice not drowning in rent. My dad 5'8" is a pretty quiet guy. The strong, silent type. He works long hours, doesn't really talk about feelings, but he's steady and dependable. Growing up, I always felt like he was the rock of our family. That's why this hit me so hard. A couple nights ago, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs around 2 a.m. to grab some water. As I walked past the living room, I heard voices. My first thought was that my dad had the TV on. But when I peeked around the corner, the room was dark, and my dad was sitting there alone, in his recliner, talking to himself, not muttering, not humming, not mumbling like someone half asleep, full sentences, and his tone was different, heavy. I froze and just listened. He said things like, "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I should have told them years ago. They'll hate me if they find out." My heart dropped into my stomach. He was whispering, but clear enough that I could make out most of it. He rubbed his face with his hands like he was exhausted, then said, "Maybe after the holidays, maybe after." And then he trailed off. I know I shouldn't have been eavesdropping, but I couldn't move. It was like watching a car crash. I didn't want to see, but I couldn't look away. Eventually, he got up, sighed, and went upstairs to bed. I ducked into the kitchen so he wouldn't know I'd been there. And now, I can't stop replaying it in my head. My dad is not the type of man to spill his guts like that, not even to himself. Whatever this is, it's eating him alive. I've been trying to piece together what he could have meant. My brain has gone into overdrive. Is it about money? Maybe he's in debt and hasn't told us. Is it health-related? He's been coughing more lately, but he insists he's fine. Did he do something in the past he never told anyone about? The part that really scares me is when he said, "They'll hate me if they find out." Hate him for what? What could he have possibly done? Since that night, I've been hyper-aware of everything he does, every time he zones out. I wonder if he's thinking about it, every time he sighs. I wonder if that's the weight of some secret pressing down on him. Yesterday, I casually asked him if everything was okay. He gave me the usual dad answer. "Yeah, just tired. Long week." But I swear there was something behind his eyes, like he wanted to say more but didn't. I also noticed he's been avoiding eye contact with me. That might just be me projecting, but it feels off. The strangest part? My mom doesn't seem to notice anything's wrong. She talks to him like normal, laughs at his jokes, and he plays along fine. It's like I'm the only one who's seen behind the curtain. Now I'm torn. Do I confront him about what I heard? Do I tell my mom? Do I just pretend I don't know anything? Part of me feels guilty for overhearing, but another part of me is terrified that whatever he's hiding is about to blow up. And if it does, our whole family could change forever. I don't know what to do. All I know is that I can't unhear those words. They'll hate me if they find out. And now, every time I look at my dad, I feel like I don't really know him at all. Double quotes update : so. A lot has happened since I first posted, and I still don't know if I'm overthinking or if something is seriously wrong. But either way, things feel heavier now. After that night, I couldn't just sit on what I heard. The words kept looping in my head. They'll hate me if they find out. I tried to brush it off, but it was eating me alive, so I decided to quietly test the waters. The next morning, I casually brought up the topic of stress over breakfast. I said something like, "Man, college is stressful. I feel like I'm always hiding how tired I am." I thought maybe Dad would take the bait and open up. He didn't. He just said, "That's life, you push through it." He barely looked at me, just focused on his coffee. But here's the thing, his hands were shaking. Not a full tremor, but noticeable enough that my mom asked if he was okay. He brushed it off. Just too much caffeine. Later that day, I snooped. I know it's not my proudest moment, but I couldn't help it. I went into the garage where he keeps his desk and paperwork. Most of it was boring bills and car manuals, but I did find an envelope from a Hospital tucked inside a drawer. It was already opened. And the only part I saw was billing department, at the top. My stomach dropped. Was he sick? Is that what this is about? I didn't take it. I shoved it back exactly where I found it. But now that image won't leave my head. The next night, something else happened. I was in my room, headphones on. When I heard a thump downstairs, I pulled my headphones off and listened. Then I heard his voice again. He was in the living room, talking to himself. This time it was more fragmented, but I swear I heard. Too late now. What would she say? God forgive me. I know I should have gone down there. But I froze again. I just sat on the edge of my bed, my heart pounding. Eventually it went quiet, and when I checked later, he was asleep on the couch. Now I'm more confused than ever. If it's just health problems, why would he say God forgive me? Why would he talk about us hating him? The paranoia is getting to me. I started paying closer attention to how he acts around Mom. And honestly, he's been weird, not openly distant, but distracted. Like when she asks him something, he pauses too long before answering, like his mind's somewhere else. He hugs her, but it's mechanical. Part of me wonders if this isn't about health at all. What if it's about something from his past? Something he never told us. Here's the part I haven't told anyone. My mom went out shopping last weekend, and I sat with my dad in the living room to watch football. Halfway through the game, during a commercial, he let out this big sigh and muttered under his breath, "I should have done better." I asked, "What do you mean?" He looked startled, like he forgot I was there. Then he forced a laugh and said, "The team, they're blowing it." But his face, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm carrying a secret I was never supposed to hear. And it's eating me alive. But I'm terrified of confronting him because what if it's something I don't want to know? All I know is, my dad is hiding something. And whether it's about his health, money, or something way darker, I'm not sure I'm ready to hear the truth, but I think I'm going to have to. Final update. Okay, so this is the last time I'm posting about this. Things have finally come to light, and honestly, I don't know how to feel. Relieved, heartbroken, both. After my last update, a lot of you told me I needed to stop lurking in the shadows and just talk to my dad, that I'd drive myself crazy. Speculating. And you were right. The not knowing was worse than whatever truth he was hiding, so I confronted him. It was last weekend. My mom had gone to visit her sister, so it was just me and him. I'd been rehearsing what to say all day, and when he came into the kitchen to make coffee, I just blurted out, "Dad, I know something's wrong. I heard you talking the other night. I know you're hiding something. Please, just tell me." He froze with the mug in his hand, didn't even set it down at first. Then he sat at the table and said quietly, "What exactly did you hear?" My heart was pounding, but I told him the things about keeping it up, about us hating him, about God forgiving him. For a long time, he didn't answer, just stared at the table. I thought he was going to kick me out or tell me it was none of my business. But finally, he said, "I didn't want you to find out like this. I didn't want anyone to find out at all." And then, he told me, the billing department envelope I found wasn't just random. He's been going to the hospital for treatments, not for something simple like blood pressure or checkups. He has a heart condition, a serious one. Apparently, he's known about it for years. He said the doctors told him he would eventually need surgery, but he's been putting it off. At first because he didn't want to miss work, then because of the money, and now because he's terrified it's too late. But that wasn't the worst part. When I asked why he never told us, he broke down. Like, I've never seen my dad cry before, not once in my entire life. But he did that night, he said. Because I promised your mom I'd always take care of you both. And I've failed. I should have been stronger. I should have told you years ago. And that's, and it clicked. All those things I overheard. They'll hate me if they find out. God forgive me. I should have told them years ago. They weren't about some dark crime or secret family. They were about his fear of letting us down. He thought that if we knew how bad it was, we'd see him as weak, that we'd resent him for hiding it. I told him the truth. We don't hate him. We just want him alive. We just want him here. The rest of the night was emotional. He admitted the bills had been piling up because he's been paying for extra appointments on the side, trying to fix things without worrying Mom. That's why he's been distant. That's why he's been exhausted. The next day, I convinced him we had to tell Mom. That was another hard conversation. She was angry at first, hurt that he'd kept it secret for so long. But once she calmed down, she just held his hand and said, "We're in this together. Always. Now, things are different. We've had some rough talks as a family. The plan is for him to finally go forward with the surgery. It's risky, but the doctors think he still has a good chance. It's not a perfect happy ending. There's still fear. There are still bills. There's still the reality that my dad is human, not the unshakable rock I grew up seeing him as. But there's also this strange kind of peace now, because at least the secret is out. At least we're facing it together instead of him carrying it alone." Looking back, I think the scariest part wasn't his health. It was the silence, the not knowing. Hearing him whisper those words in the dark made me feel like I didn't know him at all. But now I realize, he wasn't a stranger. He was just a man scared of disappointing the people he loved most. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that hiding your pain to protect your family only makes it worse. Because secrets have a way of poisoning me even when no one speaks them aloud. So yeah, I overheard my dad talking to himself, and it turned my whole world upside down. But in the end, it brought the truth out into the open. And now, instead of being haunted by the words, "They'll hate me if they find out," I hold on to what I told him that night. "We don't hate you, we love you, and we just want you here." Stories number 19. Hello, the baby. When my kid was a baby, I kept a list on my phone of things I overheard my husband say to him. "I thought this sub might appreciate a tomper to you. All other babies are garbage. You make a great team. We should go on adventures together and solve mysteries. Make a weird noise if you agree. Hello, the baby. Baby, comma." The other customers who enjoyed their own hands also enjoy an actual pacifier, such a good baby to hold. Like, this is what my arms are for. Why is dad eating your head? I'll tell you why. Because it is delicious. Baby is making lots of happy baby sounds. Sometimes I think even you don't believe everything you're saying. You want to eat my fingers, don't you? Pacifiers have ceased to satisfy you. You crave human flesh. My child is an honor student in the school of farts. You can pick your friends, and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick their flesh clean from their bones. Quacked with a toe. Thank you for sharing that with my face. Someday you're going to tell a therapist all about how great your parents were and how we never did anything wrong. Trumpeting through a tube presenting. Baby, he isn't prince of anything except my heart. In life you're going to meet a lot of people. All of them will be able to tell, just by looking at you, that you are delicious. So you're gonna wanna watch out for cannibals. Baby, fussing none of that now. Look in the mirror. You're disappointing the mirror, baby. You're pre-qualified for going to sleep. Baby is making some pre-crawling movements on hands and knees. Those are some sweet Parker moves. Bro, that one's called humping the dumpty. Now that you tried spice, would you like to invade the Indian subcontinent? You're too tired and too sad to make good choices, which is why I'm not letting you go to prom tonight. Be good. Or at least be bad in an interesting way. Do you want the freezer keys? Or should I put them back? Baby farts. A fart is funny, but it's not an answer. Oh, I thought you were done falling over. I guess I fall over sometimes too, so I don't know why I would think that. Just let me go put this back and then we'll do whatever weird thing you think counts as playing husband is pushing. The stroller you ran over my toe. I'm going to sue you for emotional damages. That was my emotional support toe. Commiserating with unhappy baby. Babies are the most discriminated against group. No baby is allowed to vote. Anywhere. Ever. You are disenfranchised. Yeah. I'm deliberately annoying you. It's called playing. Baby has cut a tooth. Congratulations. Muzzle tooth. Baby fell over and is crying. That didn't hurt. It was just really dumb and embarrassing. You're right to cry. That was humiliating. You're lucky no one was videoing because that would haunt you forever. I take back every bad thing I've ever said about babies. Thank you for taking such a long nap. I can't solve your problem because it's not an actual problem. Listen, as your life coach, I'm begging you to stop self-sabotaging. What would you like to wear today? Baby is silent. Jorts. You don't have jorts. Take a different thing. I'll trade you one of my boogers for one of yours. In grown-up culture it's considered better to not get oatmeal everywhere if you can avoid it. I'm going to give you another cookie because it's easier than fighting with you. But later in your life I need you to tell people I was a good parent. Actually, no, I don't care what they think. Tell them whatever you want. Changing a poopy diaper. What a day to have a nose. Comments. Commenter 1. You should make him a scrapbook with all of these phrases and some pictures for him for Father's Day. It's really beautiful how he engages with the baby. Commenter 2. The best thing I've read in a long time. Thank you so much for sharing this. It was exactly what I needed today. Commenter 3. This brings me back. Oh, the things we'd say to our two. LOL. Still do sometimes. My husband taught them to high five for farts. You read that right. Someone farts. High five. I fart and hold up my hand. But you don't reach for a slap. Gonna give you crap for leaving me hanging. Best example. Oldest was 4, had fallen asleep on the couch or something again, and daddy is carrying them to bed. Daddy farts. Kid is still dead asleep and the hand whips up. Daddy slaps it. Hand falls back down. Limp. How do I know they were still fast asleep? Asked them in the morning if they remembered it. They looked at us confused, then got super proud of themselves for it. Commenter 4. These are beautiful. I'm stoned and crying for many reasons. You're all so lucky to have each other. And especially your son. The world is filled with too many men with daddy issues. Thank you for being a part of the solution. Stories number 20. My husband won't let me nape him 20 weeks pregnant with a toddler, and between all the different stuff she has going on, cheer, dance, Mother's Day out, etc., I'm typically chauffeuring her around, chasing her around, cleaning, cooking, or picking out after my husband. For some reason he can never let me nap. He's weird about sleeping separate, so if I fall asleep on the couch he wakes me up to move to the bed. Not for me, for him. I've told him before just to take our child, then dog, and leave me alone. I'm one of those that can't fall asleep after being woke up. He does it if our child is at Mother's Day out and he comes home for lunch and wants food made. He'll take our child off my hands for a bit, but in my sleep I hear him make up different ways to get her to wake me up. He also has been a big nap person since before we even had kids. He always gets to nap, and in the times I'm napping I'm not taking away any sleep time from him, so I never thought of it being because of that. I just don't know what to do. If I don't sleep enough I get physically ill. I actually had to leave the house today. I was so fed up with him not letting me sleep, and now we're my child and I back in the living room after he woke me up because he didn't actually have to sleep. He's been on his phone since he woke me up to move over there and is still currently on it. I never had this issue with him in my previous pregnancy. Comments. Commenter 1. I could be wrong, but it sounds like your husband doesn't want you to nap because then he has to watch your toddler. Commenter 2. He's being ridiculous, borderline abusive when you're 20 weeks pregnant to continuously interrupt your sleep, especially if you're comfortable on the couch. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how exhausted you are. If you've already spoken to him about it, maybe it's time for some petty revenge. Waking him up every time he's napping may make him get the picture. Commenter 3. That's really bizarre and incredibly insensitive. You should be sleeping whenever you feel like you need to. If this is affecting your well-being at all, it's a serious issue. Edit. I reread the post. You need to sit him down and have a serious talk about why he's so intent on always waking you up. If he doesn't give you a clear answer, you need to tell him in no uncertain terms that you're fucking pregnant and sometimes you need to rest. If he gives you a clear answer, you can continue the conversation based off that. Commenter 4. Is this ragabait? You must be too nice. I would lose my shit the first time and every time thereafter to shut it down. Like, actually I can't control it. I'm the most conscientious person, but someone purposefully waking me up, I'm gonna wail like a banshee in confusion at first, then just start crying. Then when I get my wits about me I will set them straight that it can never happen again. Reply. I actually should have added I'm not a nice person at all when it comes to this stuff. I've never been a pushover. Actually, when I had my slogan was I'm a first-time mom, not a first-time bitch. I can't fathom why the rage when he wakes me up never has him catch a hint. Unfortunately he'll just match my energy, then I'm the bad guy and getting cussed out because I'm mad. Stories number 21. Aita for telling my dad he shouldn't have had kids. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd say something like that to my own father. Even writing it out looks brutal, but after everything that's happened, after the years of walking on eggshells and the way things finally exploded last week, I don't know if I was totally wrong. So here goes. I do for FAN, the oldest of 3 kids. My brother to 1N and sister 17F round out the trio. And we grew up in what looked from the outside like a normal suburban family. We had the 2-story house with the squeaky front steps, a dog that barked too much at the mailman, and the kind of backyard where you'd expect to see barbecues and family games of catch, but behind closed doors, things weren't really like that. My dad, 46 when I was born, now in his 70s, was never cut out to be a parent. That's the conclusion I've come to after years of trying to figure him out. He wasn't violent or openly abusive, nothing that dramatic, but he was cold, detached. He treated us like burdens more than kids. When I was little, I remember trying to get his attention. I'd bring home school drawings or try to tell him about something funny that happened at recess. He'd nod without looking up from whatever he was doing. Usually, he was sitting in his recliner watching TV or flipping through the newspaper. Sometimes, if I pressed too hard, he'd sigh and say, "Not now, I'm tired." That phrase, "not now, I'm tired," might as well have been the soundtrack of my childhood. My mom tried to bridge the gap. She's always been the glue that holds everything together. The one making sure birthdays were celebrated, and homework got done, and scraped knees were kissed better. But she worked full-time too, and you could see the exhaustion in her eyes when she'd come home after a shift. Dad didn't help much. He went to work, yes, but once he was home, he was off the clock. Household chores, emotional labor, the actual day-to-day of raising kids, that all fell on Mom's shoulders. As I got older, I started realizing that it wasn't just me. My siblings felt it too. My brother would ask Dad to play basketball with him in the driveway, and Dad would brush him off. My sister once spent weeks practicing a song for the school talent show, begged him to come, and he claimed he forgot. The night of the performance, that one broke her heart. I'll never forget the way she cried in her room afterward, and how he just sat in his chair in the living room like nothing happened. Now, here's where the guilt comes in. Even though I know deep down Dad was emotionally absent, I kept trying to win his approval. For years, straight A's in school didn't matter. He'd just say, "That's what you're supposed to do." Got into a good college. His response, "Hope you can afford it." It was never enough, and yet, I couldn't stop chasing that nod. That, "I'm proud of you." It never came. Fast forward to adulthood. I graduated college last year and moved back home, temporarily to save money. My brother is in trade school and still living at home too, and my sister is finishing high school. Mom's doing her best to keep everyone afloat, but she's burnt out. Dad retired 2 years ago, which means he's around all the time now, but instead of using that to connect with us, he's doubled down on being, well, himself. He complains about grocery bills. He grumbles that the house is too loud. He acts like having us under the roof is this unbearable inconvenience. And that's what set the stage for what happened last week. It was a Sunday afternoon. My sister had been having a rough week. She's applying to colleges, juggling school and part-time work, and you could see the stress eating at her. Mom was in the kitchen cooking dinner, and Dad was, as usual, planted in his recliner. Sis walked in holding a stack of letters from universities. She looked nervous but excited. She said, "Dad, I got into 3 schools so far. Want to see?" And he didn't even look up from the TV. He just grunted, "We'll see if we can afford it. Don't get your hopes up." She went quiet. I swear you could hear her. Heartbreaking in real time. She just stood there with the envelopes in her hand, then mumbled something about homework and left the room. That's when I snapped. I turned to him and said, "Do you even realize what you just did? She's been working her ass off, and you couldn't even look at her." He shrugged. "Life's hard. Better she learns now." I felt something in me boil over. Years of being brushed off. Years of watching my siblings get dismissed. Years of Mom covering for him. It all came spilling out. "You shouldn't have had kids if you were going to act like this." The room went dead silent. My mom froze at the stove. My brother, who'd been scrolling on his phone at the table, slowly looked up with wide eyes. Dad stared at me like I'd slapped him. Then his face twisted into something I'd never seen before. Part anger, part shock, part I don't even know. He stood up, and for a second, I thought he was going to yell, but instead, he just said, "You have no idea what you're talking about," and walked out of the room. Mom muttered my name in this horrified whisper, like she couldn't believe I'd said it out loud. My brother looked torn between agreeing with me and wanting to disappear. My sister stayed in her room the rest of the night. Since then, things have been tense. Dad barely speaks to me, except in clipped sentences. Mom keeps trying to smooth things over, but I can tell she's angry at me too. Not for being wrong, but for breaking the unspoken family rule of don't poke the bear. And I I don't know. Was I cruel? Was I just saying out loud what we've all thought at one point? Or did I cross a line that can't be uncrossed? Because here's the thing. I don't think he's a bad man. Not really. But I do think he's a man who never wanted kids. Who never should have had them. And now the rest of us are stuck living in the shadow of that choice. So Reddit Aita for telling my dad he shouldn't have had kids. Update. So yeah, things exploded after my last post. I didn't expect my words to land like a bomb in the middle of our family. But that's exactly what happened. It's been weeks now. And the fallout is still spreading in ways I couldn't have imagined. For the first couple days after I told my dad he shouldn't have had kids, the house was eerily quiet. He barely said a word to anyone. If he did, it was practical stuff. Pass the salt. Or, what time is the appointment? No small talk. No jokes. No interaction beyond the bare minimum. Mom kept walking on eggshells, shooting me little looks like, "Are you proud of yourself?" But refusing to say it out loud. My sister, on the other hand, started avoiding dad completely. If she came into the kitchen and he was already there, she'd mumble an excuse and leave. My brother tried to act like nothing had happened. But I could tell he was paying close attention. It felt like everyone was waiting for the next blow-up. Flashback. Childhood echoes. And here's the thing. It wasn't just this one fight. This moment cracked open something in me that I'd been carrying around my whole life. When I was 7, I remember Dad coming home from work while I was coloring. At the kitchen table, I proudly held up the picture, a messy crayon drawing, of our family standing in front of the house. I drawn him taller than everyone, with a big smile, because in my head, that's how I saw him. He looked at it, muttered hum, and tossed it back on the table. No smile, no good job, nothing. I remember staring at that picture afterward, the crayon version of him smiling when the real him never did. That was the first time I felt this hollow ache in my chest. Then in middle school, I made the honor roll for the first time. The school even mailed home a certificate. I was so excited. I left it on his chair so he'd see it when he got home. He walked in, glanced at it, and said, "You know, this doesn't mean much. High school is what matters." I laughed it off at the time, but later, I cried in the bathroom where nobody could hear. It was always like that. Every milestone felt like running a marathon, only to have him move the finish line farther away. So when I blurted out, "You shouldn't have had kids," it wasn't just about my sister's college letters. It was about years and years of those moments, stacked one on top of the other until they finally crushed me. The kitchen confrontation. About a week after the fight, I finally sat down with Mom. She was chopping vegetables for dinner, the knife hitting the cutting board with sharp, angry sounds. "Why would you say that to him?" she asked, not even looking at me. "Because it's true," I said. "He's never wanted to be here. He's never acted like he wanted us." She slammed the knife down. "You think this is easy? Raising kids? Keeping a roof over your head? He worked for decades so you could have food and clothes and a college education. That's the bare minimum." I shot back. "Being a dad is more than paying bills. He doesn't even know who we are. He doesn't care." Her face twisted, torn between defending him and knowing I wasn't completely wrong. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "You don't understand everything. There's more to your father than you see." And that's when the doubt started creeping in. My brother's perspective. Later that night, my brother knocked on my door. He leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "You really messed him up. You know," he said. "Good." I snapped. "Maybe he'll finally think about what it's been like for us." He sighed. "You think I don't get it?" "I do. He wasn't there for my games. He doesn't ask about school. He acts like we're furniture. But he's not as bad as you think." I laughed bitterly. "Really? Name one good thing he's done as a dad." My brother thought for a moment, then said, "He taught me how to drive. Remember how Mom was too nervous, so he took me out to that empty parking lot every weekend. He didn't yell, didn't freak out when I stalled the car. He just showed up. That meant something to me." I didn't have an answer for that, because I remembered, and I remembered how jealous I felt, watching them drive off while I sat inside with Mom. Maybe he had moments with my brother that I never got, but then I thought of my sister crying after he skipped her talent show, and the jealousy turned back into anger. The breaking point, the real breaking point came a few nights ago. We were all at the dinner table, the tension thick enough to choke on. Mom was trying to make conversation, asking my sister about her homework, When Dad suddenly put his fork down and said, "I want to say something," everyone froze. He looked straight at me. "You think I shouldn't have had kids? Maybe you're right. Maybe I wasn't cut out for it. But you don't know the whole story." My chest tightened. "Then tell me. Tell us." But he didn't. He just shook his head, stood up, and left the table. And now I can't stop thinking, what whole story is he hiding? Final update. I didn't think I'd be writing this, but here we are. Things finally came to a head with my dad, and I feel like I've seen him in a completely different light after my last post. I couldn't shake what he said at dinner. "You don't know the whole story." It stuck in my head, looping over and over. I started replaying everything I knew about him, every cold response, every brush off, every moment that made me feel invisible. And now there was this new piece of the puzzle. What story could possibly explain all of that? I'll be honest, I was terrified to find out. The confrontation. A couple nights later, I decided I couldn't live in limbo anymore. Mom had gone to bed early. My siblings were upstairs, and Dad was in his usual spot, the recliner, TV flickering in front of him. I stood there in the doorway, heart pounding, and said, "You can't just drop a line like that and walk away." "What did you mean?" At first, he ignored me. Then he muted the TV, leaned back, and said, "You really want to know?" "Yes." He rubbed his face with both hands, like he was scrubbing away years of exhaustion. Then sigh. "Fine. But once I tell you, you can't take it back. The truth." This is what he told me. When he was in his early 20s, before he met my mom, he had a different life. He'd been engaged to someone else, a woman named Lisa. They'd planned to marry, and she got pregnant. But there were complications. She died during childbirth, and the baby didn't survive either. He said the experience broke him completely. He shut down emotionally, blamed himself, even though everyone told him it wasn't his fault. For years, he swore he'd never have a family, never put himself in a position to lose everything again. Then he met my mom. She wanted kids. He told her the truth about his past. But he also told her he didn't think he'd ever be good at being a father. She insisted he'd rise to the occasion. She believed in him more than he believed in himself. Eventually, he gave in. But deep down, he never got over that first loss. He said, "Every time I looked at you kids, I loved you." I did, but I was also terrified. I kept waiting for something to go wrong, for you to get sick, or hurt, or taken away. And instead of showing love, I pulled back. I thought if I stayed distant, maybe it wouldn't hurt as much if the worst happened again. I just sat there, stunned. All those years I thought he didn't care. He cared too much, in a twisted, broken way. He wasn't cold because he hated us. He was cold because he was terrified of loving us fully. My reaction, I didn't know whether to cry, scream, or hug him. Part of me was furious, because even if I understood why, it didn't erase the years of pain. But another part of me finally saw the human being behind the wall, not some heartless man, but someone carrying grief that had rotted inside him for decades. I asked him why he never told us. He said, "Because I didn't want my kids to see me as weak. I wanted you to think I was steady, reliable." The truth is, I've been broken for a long time. That's when I realized the tragedy of it. In trying to protect us from his pain, he ended up passing it on to us anyway. The family talked next day. I told Mom and my siblings what he'd said. My sister cried. My brother just sat there quietly, processing. Mom already knew parts of the story, but admitted she hadn't realized how deep his guilt still ran. We ended up having a long, messy family talk. There were tears, raised voices, moments of silence that felt endless. My sister finally told him how much it hurt when he skipped her talent show. My brother admitted he sometimes felt invisible too, even though Dad taught him to drive. And I told him I meant what I said, in the heat of the moment, but that I didn't really wish he'd never had kids. What I wished was that he'd let himself love us openly, instead of hiding behind his fear. For the first time in my life, he didn't get defensive. He didn't brush it off. He just said, "You're right. I failed in a lot of ways, but I want to do better. Even if I'm late to the game." Where we are now, it's not a fairy tale ending. He's not suddenly super dad, cracking jokes and showering us with affection. But there's been a shift. He went with my sister to visit one of the colleges she got into. She said he asked questions, actually engaged, even smiled at her excitement. He's been spending more time with my brother, not just watching TV together but talking about his future in trade school. With me, it's complicated. We're both stubborn, both scarred from years of this silent war. But he's trying. The other night he knocked on my door, handed me an old photo album, and said, "I thought you should have this." Inside were pictures of me as a baby, ones I'd never seen before. He'd kept them tucked away, maybe because they hurt to look at, but now he wanted me to see them, and I cry, because for the first time, I believed him when he said he loved us. Double quote. So, Aita, was I the asshole for saying he shouldn't have had kids? Honestly, I don't know. It was cruel, but it also cracked the shell he'd been hiding under for decades. Maybe it was the only thing sharp enough to break through. All I know is, sometimes the people who seem the coldest are the ones who are drowning silently, and sometimes the words you wish you could take back are the ones that finally start a conversation. That should have happened years ago. So no, this isn't a clean ending, but it's a beginning, and for the first time, I feel like I might actually have a dad. Stories number 22. Am I overreacting? Or did my roommate just commit a snack crime? So last night, I came home after a horrendous shift, feet dead, brain fry, soul missing. All day, I was dreaming about the one thing that would get me through. The last slice of my favorite cheesecake. I even labeled it twice, in red Sharpie. I opened the fridge, gone, vanished. Not even a crumb left, just the sad, cold imprint of where it once lived. I asked my roommate, casually read, suppressing a primal scream, and she goes, "Oh, I thought you wouldn't mind. You didn't seem that into it." I didn't seem that into it, so I calmly wildly printed a missing cheesecake poster and taped it to the fridge, wrote a dramatic haiku about betrayal, and may or may not have renamed our Wi-Fi to Cheesecake Ithifles. Now she says I'm being extra and dramatic. So, am I overreacting? Comments. Commenter 1. Hell no. Should have called the cops. Might even be worth taking them to small claims court, outside of a significant other, watching a show on their own that you've both been wanting to watch together. Poaching a piece of food that isn't communal is as big of an act of terrorism as it gets. All kidding aside, a little light-hearted ribbing seems like a fair trade-off for eating someone else's dessert. Commenter 2. LOL. I will be more than pissed if I left something on the fridge, labeled it twice, and it vanished into thin air. How on earth? You didn't seem that into it if you labeled it twice. Is your roommate dumb or something? If you had a decent roommate, she would have left that minute to get you another cheesecake. Yeah, you're being extra and dramatic, but hilarious. Commenter 3. When I gave birth, my friend brought me a whole ass cheesecake because I love cheesecake. My husband doesn't eat it. I could snack on it for the first week of recovery. Went to get some man. The person who came by to help take care of things had cut a piece for themselves, and then clearly realized I would have broken several laws of the Geneva Convention over it because it was put back. No, not over. Reacting. This is hilarious. Commenter 4. Your response is over dramatic, but very enjoyable. I would separate out overreacting, which you are not. The behavior is very annoying from being over dramatic, which you are. Being over dramatic is, however, not a bad thing. God has blessed some people with the flair to carry it off. Keep writing those haikus. Stories number 23. Aita, for stopping my wife and baby's international travel. I 3-2M feel like I'm losing my mind lately, and I can't figure out if I'm being selfish, overprotective, or if my feelings are actually valid. It's gotten to the point where it's turned into heated arguments with my wife. 30F. Constant side-eye from my in-laws, and a ton of guilt eating away at me every day. So I figured I'd put this out there to see if I'm truly the asshole, or if I just need to find a better way to communicate how I feel. For some background, my wife comes from a very close-knit family. They all live close to us. Her parents, her siblings except one, cousins, the whole extended unit. We see them multiple times a week. Dinners together, random drop-ins, birthdays, barbecues, everything. And honestly, I love that she has such a strong support network. It's good for her. It's good for our daughter. And I like them. They're not bad people at all. But there's this recurring dynamic that's been grinding me down for years now. And it's finally boiled over. Her parents are very financially comfortable. And one of the ways they express love is by paying for experiences. They've got the resources to take trips, fun travel, and they frequently extend that generosity to my wife. Every so often, they'll invite her to join them on long international visits, usually to Australia, where one of her siblings lives. These aren't quick vacations. They're usually month-long stays. Her parents foot the bill for her flights, accommodation, everything. I don't get included in these trips because, well, someone has to stay back home, and for me, work makes it basically impossible to disappear for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. I can take some vacation, but not in those quantities, not without jeopardizing my career. So for years, the pattern has been, her parents invite, she goes, I stay behind. And I've never loved it, but I've bitten my tongue more often than not. I told myself, it's good she gets to spend time with her sibling, and it's a generous offer. It's not like she's abandoning me forever. I gritted my teeth and went along with it because marriage is compromise, right? But now, things feel completely different. We have a 5-month-old daughter, our first child, and suddenly, the stakes feel higher. Recently, my in-laws invited my wife on another trip to Australia, except this time, the invitation extended to our baby as well. They're offering to pay for my wife and our daughter to go stay for a month. On paper, it sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Sunshine, family bonding, her sibling finally meeting the baby in person. All those first experiences people love to gush about, except I won't be there. I can't even describe the knot in my stomach when I imagine it. The thought of my wife taking our 5-month-old daughter halfway across the world without me. It makes me feel physically sick, not because I don't trust my wife, not because I think something bad will necessarily happen, but because I can already feel the regret of missing out. The first time she gets on a plane, her first experience at the zoo, the aquarium, swimming in the ocean, those little moments that only happen once, and then they're gone. It hit me that if she goes, I'll be at home working, missing milestone after milestone while my in-laws get to bask in the joy of those memories. I'll be watching pictures roll in through WhatsApp instead of being there. And that breaks me, so I asked my wife not to go, and that's where everything exploded. She immediately got defensive. She said I was being controlling, that I was jealous, that I was putting my own insecurities over what could be a beautiful experience for our daughter. My in-laws, of course, backed her up. They painted me as the unreasonable one, the bitter husband trying to clip my wife's wings, the dad who doesn't want his child exposed to the wider world. It stung, because deep down, I know that's not who I am. I'm not trying to control her. I just don't want to be excluded from such important firsts. And here's the kicker. We already have a big trip planned in a few months, a family vacation where all of us, me, my wife, our daughter, her parents, and even the sibling in Australia, will be together. That's something I've been looking forward to. That's when we can all enjoy those firsts. As a family unit, this extra trip is spontaneous, unplanned, and to me, unnecessary. But my wife doesn't see it that way. She argues that our daughter won't remember any of these experiences at 5 months old, so it doesn't matter if I miss them. She says this is more about me being hung up on pride, and that I should be happy she and our baby get to go on an adventure. She insists that refusing the offer means she and the baby miss out on precious bonding time with her sibling, time that's already rare. Because of the distance, from her perspective, I'm making this all about myself. From mine, it feels like I'm being cut out of my own child's early experiences and the in-laws' generosity. Instead of feeling like a blessing, feels like salt in the wound, because it's always them deciding the terms of the family trips, and I'm left scrambling to adjust. We've had screaming matches about it, nights of silent treatment, and I keep circling back to the same questions. Am I being selfish? Am I making this about me instead of what's best for my wife and daughter? Or am I justified in saying, hey, maybe this time we don't split up the family for a month? I don't know anymore. I feel like if I let them go, I'll resent it forever. But if I put my foot down, I'll always be remembered as the guy who stopped his wife and baby from traveling. So Reddit. Aita for asking my wife not to take our baby on this trip without me. To explain why this hit me so hard, I probably need to go back a bit, because this wasn't the first time my wife's family has twisted her away, leaving me on the sidelines. Before we had our daughter, my wife would go on these trips about once every year or two. Her parents love traveling, and her sibling in Australia has been living there for about 6 years. Now, they treat it as almost a sacred pilgrimage, a way to keep that sibling from feeling too isolated on the other side of the world. And to their credit, I get why that matters to them. I really do. But the reality is, I've never been able to tag along. I work in a field where time off is limited and heavily scheduled. The longest vacation I can take without risking serious problems at work is about 2 weeks. 3 at most. That means every time my wife's family planned these extended month-long stays, I'd either have to join for just a fraction, which wasn't really feasible financially, since flights are expensive, and I'd be flying in and out for only a small slice of the trip, or not at all, and almost always, it's been not at all. So while my wife was off experiencing Australia, beaches, hiking, sightseeing, family time, I was back home going to work, cooking solo dinners, scrolling through her photos on Instagram. I can admit, I felt jealous sometimes. I'd see her holding koalas, snorkeling at the Great Barrier Reef, posting family group shots while I was sitting at home microwaving leftovers. But I told myself it wasn't worth picking fights over. That it was better for her to have those memories with her family than for me to drag her down with guilt. Still, those trips planted little seeds of resentment, seeds I tried to ignore, seeds that I thought would stay buried once we started our own family. But now those seeds have grown into something harder to dismiss. When we first found out my wife was pregnant, I remember having this overwhelming flood of emotions: excitement, fear, joy, all the cliché things people talk about. But more than anything, I promised myself I'd be present. My own dad worked a lot when I was a kid. He wasn't absent, but he wasn't fully there either. He missed school plays, soccer games, even my first time riding a bike. And though I love him, I always carried that ache of wanting him around more. I swore I wouldn't repeat that pattern with my child. So when this Australia trip came up, my gut reaction wasn't just about the logistics. It wasn't even just about missing milestones. It was this deeper, visceral fear of becoming my dad, the guy who's always on the outside, the guy who watches life happen without him. I told my wife as much. We were sitting in the kitchen one night after dinner, and Ashfeli blurted it out. "Please don't go. Not this time. Not with the baby." She looked up at me like I had just said something offensive. "Why not? It's a free trip my parents are offering because they want siblings' name to finally meet her niece. What's the harm?" I sigh. The harm is I won't be there. It's her first plane ride, her first time in the ocean, her first time at the zoo, all without me. I don't want to miss those things. She rolled her eyes. She's 5 months old. She's not going to remember any of that. "You're being dramatic. That doesn't matter," I snapped, louder than I meant to. "I'll remember it. Those moments matter to me. Don't you get that?" And that's when the words that keep replaying in my head came out. She said, "You're making this all about you. This is about family, my family. And you're trying to control me because you're jealous." That crushed me, because I wasn't trying to control her, at least I didn't think I was. The argument spiraled from there. Over the next week, it became this constant source of tension in our house. Every time I tried to calmly explain my feelings, it turned into a fight. She'd say, "It's not like she remember her first flight. You're overthinking. You're acting like a month apart is the end of the world. Why should I and our daughter miss out on seeing my sibling just because you can't take time off work?" And I'd counter with, "Because I'm her dad and I don't want to miss her early experiences, because it's not fair that your parents get to decide what milestones I'm excluded from, because we already have a trip planned together in a few months. Why can't we wait?" It got nasty at points, I'll admit. I said some things in anger I regret. Things like, maybe your parents should have just adopted me too, since they seem to think they own every part of our lives. That stung her badly. On her end, she accused me of being selfish, insecure, and ungrateful for her parents' generosity. The worst fight happened about a week ago. She came home from visiting her mom and announced that her parents had already checked flight prices. I lost it. So what? Decisions get made behind my back now. You guys just plan trips and expect me to suck it up. She shot back, "You don't get to veto my life. If I want to take my daughter to meet her aunt, I will." That was the first time she said my daughter instead of our daughter. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Since then, it's been this uncomfortable stalemate. I haven't budged on saying I don't want them to go. She hasn't budged on saying she does. The in-laws are clearly siding with her. Her mom sent me a thinly veiled text, saying, "It's important not to let fear hold back opportunities for baby's name." She deserves to see the world early, which felt like a dig at me, tainting me as the fearful, overbearing parent. And in the middle of all this is our daughter, blissfully unaware, just learning how to laugh and roll over while her parents argue about plane tickets. To be clear, I don't think I'm perfect in this situation. I know my emotions are tangled with jealousy. I know part of me resents that her family always has the money, the time, and the influence to orchestrate these things, while I'm stuck working and watching from afar. I know that makes me extra sensitive, but at the same time, I don't think it's unreasonable for a dad to want to be there for his baby's firsts, and I can't shake the feeling that if I let them go, I'll never forgive myself. I'll be sitting at my desk, picturing my baby giggling on the beach with everyone but me. I'll be scrolling through photos of her first swim while I microwave dinner alone again, and the resentment that's been simmering for years will boil over into something I can't take back. But if I don't let them go, I'll be the guy who stopped his wife and baby from traveling, the asshole who kept his child from meeting her aunt because he couldn't handle being left out. I'm stuck between two versions of myself I don't want to be, so I guess I'm here asking strangers on the internet, am I really the asshole for trying to stop my wife from taking our baby on this trip? Or am I just finally standing up for myself after years of being sidelined? Stories number 24. Aita. For not feeling any shame about getting caught having sex. So my BF and I were in a shed, in his yard cleaning, but we ended up having sex halfway through 2 minutes into the banging sesh. His neighbors, I think he was a neighbors, he doesn't live there anyway, is what I'm trying to say, walked into the shed, caught us, and then told his parents. The reason for this post BTW is because when I was talking to my friend about it, he said that I'm the problem, but in my opinion, I would understand if we were going at it in a public space, or if we were 2 15-16-year-olds, but we weren't. That guy just randomly showed up and then got mad. Double quotes. Yes, it's uncomfortable for him, but we were in a private place doing our own thing, and I really don't think he had much right to tell on us when we're two adults doing adult things at it. I'm 18 and he's 19. Edit 2. I'm seeing a few comments saying that this didn't happen. I mean, it's a funky story, but it definitely happened. I was meant to visit my BF today to help continue with the cleaning and couldn't specifically because of this. And as I said in a comment, funny enough, I actually don't want a 60-year-old man to watch me and my BF have sex, so it's kind of odd for people to say otherwise, as if this story is some sort of fantasy I've just come up with. LOL. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Sounds like the neighbor had to trespass to see you. Guys, you did nothing wrong. Commenter 2. Yeah, but there could be more in play here. Maybe the shed has windows and could be seen from next door, and they were being nosy as well. Where I live, that could be considered indecent exposure. He could have even had guests over and they were being loud and visible. He may have even tried knocking and shouting before walking in. So I'm going to say INFO. Reply. Okay, so for some context, my BF lives on a farm. He has neighbors, but they aren't close enough for them to hear anything, given that he lives on a farm. The shed was a farm shed, so it was an actual structured building rather than your average back garden shed. The shed does have windows and stuff, but you'd have to actually walk into the farmland yard to be able to see into them. Commenter 3. Makes sense. Also makes sense why the neighbors walked in on you too, 'cause that's what country people are like. They just wander onto each other's properties unannounced and get up in each other's business, borrow each other's tools and shit. Except this time he found a tool he wasn't expecting and it was being used. LOL. Stories number 25. I traumatized a mom back on behalf of her son every Wednesday. My nonverbal autistic son has had outpatient speech therapy, a facility within our local hospital. He's 13 and we have been going forever, and I've seen a lot of parents and different kinds of kids in and out. Recently, there was a woman there with 2 children whom I presume was waiting for her other child in therapy. One was a little girl who was a toddler and the other was a boy about 7. This mom was being so rude and speaking terribly to just the son. He couldn't do anything without her getting visibly and verbally pissed. She wouldn't even listen to him when he wasn't misbehaving. I was embarrassed for her, honestly. It wasn't a good look. Now, I know we get overwhelmed as parents, but I was talked to a lot like this as a child and it's had lifelong repercussions on my mental health. My son is wild at times, to say the least. He can pinch slap, scratch and try to bolt away. He's perfect in my opinion. But nonetheless, when he came roaring out of therapy, this family was also present in the hallway. He came up to me and scratched the entire length of my arm and then slapped my arm. I looked at that other mother right in the eyes and said, "Hey bro, let's try to calm down and have nice hands." She broke eye contact immediately and put her head down because she knows. I hated to use my child as an example like that, but I hope she counts her blessings and thinks twice about her child's behavior after seeing what other people's family life is like. Stories number 26. Your brain is literally rewiring itself when you struggle to learn something. New tips from a 4.0 GPA neurosurgery major. Here's what most people don't realize: the foggy, uncomfortable feeling when you can't recall something. It's not failure, it's your brain forming new connections. This is the whole basis behind active recall, but without reinforcement, these connections fade fast. This is the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. The fix is spaced repetition and self-testing. Each quiz, flashcard, and review, timed right before you'd forget, strengthens memory and builds mental resilience. Think of it like lifting weights. The struggle means growth, and spacing your reps locks it in. You can use software like Quizify or Anki to handle the spacing for you. Or recently, I've been using Ghostly to help me actually study and remember stuff with AI. Whether it's math, coding, or languages, breakthroughs come from struggle, review, and testing. Don't quit during the hard part. Each quiz, flashcard is like an investment in a sharper, more durable mind. And AI studying seems to be the future. Your future self is counting on you to push through today's discomfort. Every moment of mental strain is an investment into a sharper, more resilient mind. Stories number 27. Ayo, poor people don't need to know what they are eating. Game truly a loss, and if I'm being honest, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. My town has 2 food pantries. I can't go back to one of them until next month. I hope I won't need to, so I went to the other one. I was given a box of mystery food where the cans didn't have labels and bags. Without the boxes, I asked the lady running it what the food was or if she had any idea, and she said it's food. Yes, and I'm grateful, but my daughter has a strict diet and I need to be able to look up the nutrition on everything she eats. She then says she is hungry enough. She will eat anything, except she can't. She has diabetes and high blood pressure. She can only have so many carbs and only so much sodium. She is just not being picky. I was watching another worker to the side taking things out of the package and writing what they were, except it was just vegetable and sauce, very vague and sloppy. I could barely read what was scribbled on mine. Like she didn't care. I'm guessing they do this if it's past its expiration dates. What about the people with food allergies? I've dealt with rude pantry workers in the past when the lady refused to give her tampons because she was so young and didn't need to be using tampons, so I don't know why. Expected a different outcome. I know things suck for a lot of people right now, and it doesn't help when people have no empathy or volunteer to help, but want to gatekeep and control what is given. What will happen if she has too many carbs or misses a few doses of medicine? I really don't know, but I'm not willing to gamble with her health. I'm grateful for food, but I have to know what I'm feeding her, and I guess that is another luxury I can't afford. Comments. Commenter 1. I volunteered at a pantry for a long time, and let me tell you, some of the volunteers seemed to come because they loathed poor people, like it was to gloat or like teach them a lesson. Bizarre. And I don't think it'll shock anyone that it was like 100% elderly white people who did that. And they could barely even lift the dang cans in the first place, and we had hundreds of people to serve in 3 hours. Not that I'm still mad. Anyway, unlabeled food we put to the side, and people could choose to take it if they wanted, and really it moved pretty well for mystery cans, but we would never force people to take it. That's crazy. Commenter 2. This was my experience working at a pantry. 2. Some volunteers heard making homophobic and ableist remarks, calling someone who came in using a cane faking a disability, and disability had nothing to do with qualifying for food. So it made 0 sense. One of them absolutely delighted in scolding people for going to Major and not Save-A-Lot, right down to shaming them. You really think shopping at Major is for families like your own? How are you affording to feed your kids at an expensive store like that? People like you have to shop at Save-A-Lot. Obviously, it was awful. This isn't the norm, but certainly, there's a kind of awful person who volunteers just to feel better than others, I guess. Commenter 3. Holy shit, I am so sorry op, this is a horrific situation. I'm genuinely at a loss for words. Is this a city-run food bank or a church-run food bank? If it's church-run, they are writing this off on their taxes. Why give unlabeled food like that? It could be out of date, or any number of other problems could arise with people's health. Something is off. Reply. I'm not sure if it's city-run or not, but it isn't a church. I was watching them take off the labels and I wonder if it was because the best-by date was passed. Commenter 4. The food bank where I volunteered had a helpful poster in the pantry with how long this specific food item is actually good for after the best-by date. Peanut butter and pasta. A lot longer. Canned tomatoes? Not much longer. High-acid canned foods go bad faster than low-acid ones, that sort of thing. But rather than strip the labels to hide the expiration date, volunteers sorted donations by type and then wrote the extended expiration dates on them in big black Sharpie for easy identification. Then they were sorted by expiration date expiring. Soonest equals given out first. I've never heard of a food bank stripping the nutrition labels off, especially because they usually feature cooking instructions. It seems like a terrible policy if the actual goal is helping people. And I'm sorry that the worker was so unsympathetic. Commenter 5. I don't think you're overreacting. I volunteer at a food pantry and people can request specific items be added or removed from their box or can say vegetarian, vegan, gluten-free. We get the lists with food items needed in advance for families and ensure dietary requirements and allergies are met and try our best to accommodate preferences. For example, everyone gets a selection of fruit and vegetables and people are able to write down things like no tomatoes, bananas please, etc. Infantilizing recipients and denying them choice is not great at all. On top of this, giving people a choice will also cut down on food waste and is a more sustainable practice. Stories number 28. The entitled houseguest from hell who tried to kick me out of my own home. You ever have one of those moments in life where you look around and think, how the hell did I end up here? Because that was me a few months ago, standing in my own living room, while a supposed friend told me I needed to pack up my cats and leave my apartment so that she and her 5 untrained, uninvited dogs could take over. Yeah, buckle up, this one's a doozy. How it started. I'm 45. I've lived in the same apartment for over a decade. I've got 2 cats, a steady job, and a nice relationship with my landlord, Carol, who lives a few doors down. Nothing fancy, but it's home. A few months ago, an old friend, let's call her Marcy 40, called me in a panic. She said she'd gotten into a fight with her boyfriend. Things got heated, and she didn't feel safe staying there. She asked if she could crash in my guest room for a couple of days, just until I figure things out. I've always been the helper friend. Sometimes to my own detriment. I said yes, with one condition. She couldn't bring her dogs. I'm severely allergic. And on top of that, I knew for a fact they weren't housebroken. 5 of them pit bulls, terriers, mutts, all sweet. I'm sure that not trained and definitely not suited for my small space. Marcy swore she wouldn't bring them. Spoiler, she did. The first week, at first, I tried to brush off the little things. She brought the dogs anyway, claiming she had no choice because she didn't trust her boyfriend to feed them. Within the first 24 hours, one of them had peed on my hallway rug, another chewed the corner of my couch, and I broke out in hives from my allergies. I gently reminded her that I'd asked her not to bring them. She waved me off and said, "Oh come on, it's just temporary. You're being dramatic." By day 3, she'd stopped leaving the guest room. Instead, she texted me constantly. I'd be sitting on my couch when my phone buzzed. "Can you bring me some water? I'm hungry. Can you make me a sandwich? Can you run to the store and grab me some wine?" Mind you, I was working full-time. She was literally just sitting in my guest room, door closed, watching Netflix on her iPad while I played maid. I should have kicked her out then, but I didn't. I thought, she's going through a tough time, be patient. The clothes incident, about a week in, the entitlement went from irritating to downright insane. I was getting ready for work one morning, went into my closet, and realized one of my favorite sweaters was missing. I searched around, confused, until I heard the unmistakable sound of someone clearing their throat behind me. I turned around. There was Marcy, standing in the doorway to my bedroom, wearing my sweater, and my leggings, and one of my pairs of boots. I just stared at her. She shrugged and said, "These aren't yours. They were in the guest room closet." I said, "Marcy, I've lived here for 12 years. Everything in this house is mine. Take my clothes off." She rolled her eyes, muttered something about me being controlling, and stomped off. The ultimatum. That night, things went from absurd to utterly unhinged. I was curled up on my couch with one of my cats when Marcy came marching out of the guest room. She stood in front of me, arms crossed, dogs trailing behind her like a pack. She said, in the most serious voice I've ever heard her use, "I've given it some thought. I think it would be better for me and my dogs if you and your cats moved out." I laughed hard. I thought she was joking, but her face, dead serious. She doubled down. "Seriously, I want you to leave now." I blinked at her, trying to process the audacity. Then I said, "Marcy, you are a guest in my house. If my presence bothers you, you can pack your things and get the hell out." She stomped back into the guest room, slammed the door, and stayed there the rest of the night. The explosion. The next morning, she refused to leave. She said she had rights because she'd been living there. Again. 1 week, she screamed at me that she was going to take over the lease and that my landlord couldn't stop her. When I told her to get out or I'd call Carol the landlord, she smirked and said, "Go ahead, she can't evict me. This is my house now." So I called Carol. Big mistake. Carol came over, knocked on the guest room door, and told Marcy she had to leave immediately or the cops would be called. Instead of leaving, Marcy stormed out with her dogs and got in Carol's face. She started screaming about how Carol and I were conspiring against her, how we'd stolen her home, and how she was going to ruin our lives. At one point she even grabbed one of the pit bulls by the collar and shouted, "Do you want me to let him go?" That was it. Carol called the cops. Marcy ended up being trespassed from the property. She finally left, dogs in tow, cursing me out the entire way down the driveway. The aftermath. Since then, she's been on a smear campaign. She's telling anyone who'll listen, mutual friends, her family, even random acquaintances on Facebook, that I stole her house and ruined her life. She's never lived here. She stayed for a few weeks. I've been here for 12 years. On the lease the entire time. Every now and then, someone will send me a screenshot of one of her rants. Apparently, in her version of events, I trapped her, forced her into homelessness, and conspired with the landlord to kick her out of her rightful home. Meanwhile, I'm just here, in my apartment, with my cats, living the exact same life I was before she barged in. Final thoughts. I still don't understand how someone can be that entitled and delusional. It's like she walked into my life, decided she liked my setup, and thought she could just take it. Lesson learned, though. Never again will I open my guest room to anyone without clear boundaries, because apparently, some people don't understand the concept of guest. Stories number 29. Overheard fiancé talking shit about me and women in general. I recently got engaged to my fiancé, who is extremely affectionate, loving, and sweet to me daily. We have been together for 5 years and are both 30 years old. However, today I got really upset that I had gained a bit of weight and we argued about it. I always fought, and he assured me he kept our disagreements and my insecurities private. I keep everything private that he confides to me. Today I overheard him talking about me while gaming. He had thought that I had gone to volleyball. He was saying how much he hates women, that we are all the same, fucking can't stand women, and that I drive him crazy. Women are all psychos, and are all the same, that it would be easier if they could just be gay together. If your woman doesn't drive you crazy, then she's a dude. He loves me, but I drive him crazy. I was honestly absolutely shocked because I've never heard him talk this way about women, or me for that matter. He said, after our third date he sealed the deal and asked his friend all about his sex life and started talking about how crazy different girls in the past were. He called other women fucking bitches, fat, and that some are only good for the buck and then you drop them. He honestly sounded like a stranger to me. I have never heard him say things like this, and I understand ranting and blowing off steam, but this made me feel like I didn't even know him. It really bothers me to be with someone that sounds so misogynistic. Am I being overly sensitive? Stories number 30. Aita for reporting my male supervisor for barging into the women's changing area when HR won't act. I-25F work in a fairly large lab where we have to get into suits to work with our equipment every day. I'm the only woman, so they use my changing area as extra storage for the lab. Due to this, one of my male supervisors, M60s, keeps crossing lines. First time, he walked straight into the women's changing area while I was mid-change. No knock, no warning. I don't know if he saw me and rest because he left very quickly after I yelled hello. He later told me he was going in there to grab something. Second time, he actually announced himself before coming in, but then brought in contractor, maintenance worker I didn't know, saying the contractor needed to check something. The doorway was blocked so I couldn't leave, and when I said I wasn't comfortable, I was told multiple times to just deal with it because she's a woman. I felt trapped and humiliated. For the record, I don't mind changing around other women coworkers if I had any, but strangers being walked in without warning is not the same. He could have called or texted me to warn me about her. Third time, I was working on an experiment in the lab using sensitive equipment to record measurements, and he kept interfering, opening and closing parts of the setup while I was running data collection, which completely messed up my results. I asked him to stop. He didn't. The second I called another supervisor over, he suddenly shut it down and acted totally normal. I filed a formal complaint and even asked that he not be an authority over me while this is sorted out, because I was worried about retaliation. HR basically brushed it off, acted like no rules were broken, and refused to take any action. Now I feel like I always have to have another person around anytime I interact with him, just to protect myself, so now I'm second-guessing Aita for reporting him at all, and HR doesn't think it's a big deal. TLDR. Male supervisor walked into the women's changing area without warning, later brought in a contractor, maintenance worker, while I was changing and told me to just deal with it, then sabotaged my lab work until another boss showed up. I filed a complaint, but HR acted like no rules were broken and refused to act. Aita. Update. Aita for reporting my male supervisor for barging into the women's changing area when HR won't act. Hey everyone, this is the update for this post. I'm writing this on my phone, so please excuse any grammar, spelling errors. First, let me add some context. I didn't add it in the first post because I was worried my coworkers would find it. And I still am. My experiment wasn't exactly a full-blown experiment. It was me trying to prove that there was an improperly cleaned chemical spill that the supervisor was trying to hide. The chemical that was spilled isn't known to be too toxic, carcinogenic, poisonous, corrosive, reactive, but its chemical properties make it hard to detect other than with special equipment. Colorimetric papers. My findings caused a outside third-party company to come in and bring industrial hygienist. I clearly have trust issues, so once we were given the all clear to return to the lab space, I resumed my test to see if they properly remediated. Lo and behold, it was still present at a level 10x the OSHA PEL. So, now there is more remediation and the supervisor is angry again. To digress, I submitted my HR complaint as stated in the first post. They didn't even speak to my witness and closed the investigation. My complaint is now in the hands of my department head for mediation. He has had several meetings with me where he has stated how open to mediation the supervisor is. Allegedly, the supervisor told the department head he wants to see me succeed and wants to mentor me, a statement which feels like a continued backhanded compliment. In a fun new plot twist, a new woman hire is joining the lab and will be using the woman's changing room. I brought this up to the department head at my last meeting. Are you going to inform the new lab tech that I am locking the door due to this supervisor's intrusions? Department head. Well, why does anyone lock a door? For privacy. Is that what you're going to tell her? Department head. Yes, because at its basis, it's about privacy. And if he tries to walk in on her, department head, then that will be dealt with. But this won't. Department head. It is. With mediation, the weight of the disruption and the accountability is still being placed on me. I must lock the door. I must weigh the ethical dilemma of telling her, all while all he has to do is mediation. They also had 2 out-wall fixed items in my changing room that were contaminated. This led to a baseball-sized hole in the wall, a hole that opens into a office cubicle mixed gender area. I shoved N95s into the hole just to feel comfortable using the enclosed bathroom stall at the far end of the room. When I brought up my concerns, I was told I had permission to use the department head bathroom. It took them about 3 days to fix it. At this point, I have moved all of the extra items being stored in my locker room to a public location. Now there should be no need for men to enter. I haven't filed a YO complaint just yet, and now some of the other lab workers are angry at me for being a troublemaker and stirring the pot by continuing to find contamination. It's still an uphill battle, but I'm not giving up quite yet. Thank you all for your support on my first post. Reassurance that I'm not crazy for feeling wronged has really helped. Stories number 31. Aita for asking my brother to stop his friend from getting near my wife. Yesterday, my wife told me that she feels uncomfortable around my brother's friend and I need to talk to my brother. I said I wanted to talk to my brother or confront his friend, but you said you will manage and I shouldn't interfere because I might lash out. She said that I was right and I should do what I want to, but I should be polite. I came back from work just a few hours ago and the first thing I did was to call my brother and I asked him to keep his friend away from my wife. He asked me, did his friend piss me off? I asked him if he's dumb. Do you not see that your friend is being flirty? He said that his friend is playful. He's extrovert while we are introverts. And we should just get along cause my wife was also friendly with him. My brother's friend on every occasion tries to talk to my wife and he makes stupid jokes to make her laugh, and yesterday, when we went to my brother's on my niece's birthday and his friend grabbed my wife's shoulder and tried to talk a selfie with her, my wife said no and she came to me. And not just this, he also comments on pics my wife uploads. I explained everything to my brother, but he said his friend is just playful and fun to be around. I said he should ask his friend to stay away from my wife, and if he doesn't then we won't attend any family celebration if his friend is invited. He said we are overreacting and my wife should have shut him down early on if she had a problem with him. Are we assholes here? Update. Aita for asking my brother to stop his best friend from getting near my wife. My brother told me that his friend was just being playful with my wife and my wife shouldn't have encouraged his friend and shut him down when his friend was harassing her. I decided to talk to his best friend directly. I called him and I introduced myself and I said that we don't like him getting close with my wife and it's best that he stays away from her on occasions. He said he is sorry and didn't mean to hurt me and my wife never had a problem with it. I said but you did and I am now speaking for my wife and you should stay away from us. He followed up with yes he will. Why brother? My shitty ass brother. His friend told him and my shitty brother said that I shouldn't have talked to his friend and he did nothing wrong. He only tried to talk to make her laugh and touched her shoulder for a selfie. I told my brother that it's vile and we don't want his best friend near us. We argued and I ended up telling him that if his friend is invited on our family gatherings or occasion then we will leave. This whole thing became a family drama and in the end my parents and my other siblings told my brother that his friend isn't invited and my brother is pissed. He says it's all my fault for making a huge deal about a selfie and small jokes. We are both happy with my family's decision and my wife said I have good siblings minus my brother. We were planning on skipping on every occasion where his friend was invited anyway. But I don't get my brother's reaction. His friend is harassing his sil and he is fine by it. Stories number 32. Entitled Woman Tries to Make Her Own Line Gets Sent to the Back of the Real Line. This morning, I was in line at a consulate to get a travel visa. You have to show up with all your paperwork and wait in line forever. If all your paperwork is in order, you leave your passport and all your documents with them for processing and come back when it is ready to be picked up. With the visa added, I was advised to show up early because the line is insane and moves slowly. So I got there an hour before it opened, and there were still 10 people or so ahead of me, about a half hour before opening time. A woman approached, looked at the line which at this point extends around the block, and then stood next to the first person in line. About 10 minutes later, someone walked up and asked her if she was in the pickup line, and she said yes. So the second person lined up behind her. A few more people trickled in and asked if it was the pickup line, and a couple of people overheard and got out of the main line to stand behind her in the pickup line. At 9:30 sharp, when the guard came out, he took one look at the second line and said one line. Stories number 33. My ugly wake-up call after snapping at someone because of their accent. This is one of those stories that doesn't make me look good at all, but I've been sitting with the guilt for days. And I think writing it out is my way of holding myself accountably. A few days ago, I was sitting at my kitchen table, drowning in paperwork. I'm in the middle of selling my house, which means non-stop phone calls, texts from my realtor, and numbers I don't recognize popping up every hour. My realtor, Jacob, warned me, answer everything: buyers, inspectors, title company. They'll all come up as random numbers, just pick up. So I was in that mindset when my phone buzzed with unknown caller. The setup answered with my usual hello, and there was this tiny pause before the other person spoke. You know the pause. The one that screams call center. Then a woman's voice came through, polite but with a heavy Indian accent. Instantly, my guard shot up in the background. I could hear chatter. Like a busy office, my brain went, here we go again, another scammer. Because here's the thing. I get hit with scam calls constantly. I'm talking a dozen a week. Easy extended warranties, fake IRS, phony Amazon suspicious purchases, and more often than not, the callers have thick accents and come from India. It's not every call center, but I've been burned enough that I'm immediately suspicious. Me reaction. So instead of just hanging up, I decided to be a smartass. I put on this fake cheery voice and said, oh really? Order number 1,980 for 1,726,374. I've been waiting to hear from you. There was a pause on her end. Then she repeated the order number carefully and said, yes sir. This is in reference to your order. We need you to validate. I cut her off. Lady, I can do this all day long. How long do you want to play this game? Another pause, more background chatter. She tried again, and I talked over her. You know what? Actually, I don't have time for this, and I pulled the phone from my ear, smirked to myself, and hit and Callie felt a little smug, like I'd won the gut punch. But just as I was lowering the phone, I swear I heard her say the word medical. That single word froze messy. I have a medical condition that requires weekly injections. Nothing dramatic, just something I've lived with for years. Every couple of years, I place an order for a new box of injection needles, 100 at a time. And the medical supplier always needs me to re-verify my prescription through either my doctor or pharmacy. My stomach dropped. Hurried over to my computer, opened my email, and there it was, an email from the medical supply company. Time-stamped literally minutes before the calf order confirmation, the exact order number. The request that I validate. Ida hadn't been dealing with a scammer, had been mocking and cutting off a perfectly legitimate employee, just trying to do her job. Shame Spirali just sat there, staring at my screen, feeling like the world's biggest jerk. Because here's the thing. I hadn't just assumed she was a scammer, I'd assumed it because of her accent. He racially profiled her flat out. Would I have been suspicious if someone with a Midwestern accent had said the same words? Probably not. I would have listened, maybe even been polite, but because she sounded Indian, I lumped her in with every scam call I'd ever gotten, and I treated her like a joke. And the more I thought about it, the worse it got. That woman probably spends her entire day being talked over, hung up on, or yelled at, not because she's done anything wrong, but because she has the misfortune of sounding like the people Americans have been taught to distrust. It's not her fault scammers operate out of India. It's not her fault. She drew the short straw in being the voice on the other end of my order, but she's the one paying for it. In patience, in dignity, in respect. She doesn't get me. Reflexioni didn't call her names. I didn't swear at her, but I was condescending, sarcastic, and dismissive, and it doesn't matter that I thought I was playing with a scammer. The impact is the same. I treated a real human being like garbage because of where her accent placed her in my brain. And here's the ugly part. I've always thought of myself as someone who isn't racist. I donate to causes. I read the right articles. I pat myself on the back for being aware, but the second I heard her voice, all that self-image went out the window. My bias came roaring through. It's the part that really stings, because it's easy to say I'm not racist when you're not being tested, but when the test came, I failed it. Where I go from here? I don't get a do-over. I can't call her back and apologize. I can't undo the way I made her pause, or the silence that probably told her, here we go again, another American who thinks I'm worthless. What I can do is sit with that discomfort and actually learn from it, to slow down next time, to check my assumptions before I let them spill out of my mouth, to remember that just because someone sounds different doesn't mean they're untrustworthy. Want to be better than the guy who laughed while hanging up on a woman who was literally just trying to help me. And if I ever needed proof that racism isn't always loud or intentional, this was it. Sometimes it's casual, sometimes it's jolly sarcasm, sometimes it's thinking you're being clever when really you're just showing your ugliest self. He absolutely was a jerk to that woman because of her accent, and I don't want to be that guy again. Update. My ugly wake-up call after snapping at someone because of their accent. So, a lot of people asked me to update if anything came out of that situation. I wasn't planning to, but a few things happened over the last week that really stuck with me, and I figured it was worth sharing. Talking it over with family night, I posted my original story. I couldn't get it out of my head. It's like my brain kept replaying the call, the pauses, the way I interrupted her, the word medical right before I hung up. I told myself, you'll move on in a day or two, but I didn't. Finally, I ended up telling my wife, Karen, about it. She's the type who doesn't let me get away with BS. And when I finished, she just stared at me and said, so you thought you were being clever, but really you were being prejudiced. At least you see it now, but what are you going to do about it? That hit harder than I expected. She wasn't angry. She was disappointed, and for some reason, that stung more. Later, I mentioned it to my buddy Mark when we were grabbing beers. He's first-gen Filipino, and without missing a beat, he said, dude, welcome to my mom's entire life. Accent equals target. Doesn't matter how smart or kind you are. Americans assume you're stupid or shady. He wasn't gloating, he wasn't even lecturing, he was just stating it, and it made me realize how normal this treatment is for people who don't sound white. Reaching out to the companion. Guilt got to me so much that I decided to call the medical supply company back. When I got through their customer service line, I asked if there was a way to identify who had called me earlier in the week. The rep on the line this time, a guy with a generic Midwest accent, told me could have been anyone from their verification team, and they don't really have a system for routing feedback about specific employees. He explained what happened anyway. I said, look, I don't know who called me, but she was doing her job, and I was a jerk because I assumed she was a scammer. I just want her to know I'm sorry. The rep kind of chuckled awkwardly and said, I'll note it here, they get treated pretty badly sometimes. I'm sure she appreciated hearing that at least one customer realized it. It wasn't much, that I hope my apology got passed along somehow. An awkward but needed conversation at work. A couple of days later, this experience came up at my job. I work in IT, and during a lunch break, people were joking about scam calls. Someone imitated the hello sir, this is tech support voice, and everybody laughed normally. I would have joined in, but instead, I told the story of what happened to meth room. Got quiet. Tone of my coworkers, Priyo, looked at me and said, yeah, that's my dad. Not literally, but you know what I mean. He's been in the States for 30 years, and people still treat him like a Joe when he calls their office because of his accent. I felt about 2 inches tall, but she smiled after a second and added, I appreciate you owning it. Though most people just double down. That was the first time I realized my little confession wasn't just about me. Talking about it out loud made other people feel seen. My own habit since then, I've started noticing how often I make snap judgments based on voice alone, not just with calls, but everywhere. At the drive-thru, on customer support chats, even when listening to voicemail. And I hate to admit it, but I do give more benefit of the doubt to people who sound like me. That's the part I have to unlearn. It's not a switch I can flip off in a week, but now I'm aware of it. Painfully aware where I'm at now. I'm not writing this update to pat myself on the back. Honestly, I still feel gross about the way I acted on that call, but what I've realized is that screwing up isn't the end of the story. It's what you do with the discomfort that matters. You don't get to erase the fact that I dismissed a hardworking woman because of her accent, but I can use that moment as a reminder to slow down, to listen, and to check myself before I act like I've got someone all figured out. I've been trying to end calls, even the spammy ones, with at least a polite, sorry, not interested, because even if 99% of them are scams, that 1% could be someone like her, and I'd rather be wrong on the side of kindness than repeat that mystica Karen told me the other night. Growth hurts, but that's how you know it's real. I think she's right. So yeah, that's the update. I embarrassed myself, but I learned something I needed to learn, and hopefully next time I'll pass the test I failed the first time. Final update. My ugly wake-up call after snapping at someone because of their accent. It's been a few months since my last post, and I figure I'd leave one final update to close this out. I wasn't sure if anyone cared, but this experience has stayed with me in ways I didn't expect, and something happened recently that really brought it full circle. Another phone call, another chancey. A few weeks ago, I got another unknown number call. My first instinct was still the same little jolt of suspicion, but this time, instead of gearing up to be sarcastic or dismissive, I forced myself to take a breath and just listen. Caller had a fake accent, not Indian this time, maybe Nigerian, though I'm not certain. My brain immediately wanted to slot it into the scam category, But I didn't let it run wild. I let the woman finish her entire introduction. Turns out it was a delivery company confirming details for a shipment tied to my move. If I had hung up or mocked her the way I did before, I probably would have delayed the whole process by days. When I hung up, I just sat there for a minute, thinking, okay, that was the real test, and this time, you didn't blow it. Conversations at home. Me wife, Karen, has noticed the difference too. She told me, I can hear it in your voice. When you pick up unknown calls, you sound calmer, less defensive. She's right. I used to answer with this mix of irritation and skepticism, like I was ready to battle. Now I answer like I would if Jacob, my realtor, was calling, and if it is a scam, I just politely say no and hang up. No sarcasm, no smugness, no performance. Karen teased me once, saying, look at you, turning into Mr. Patience. But honestly, I liked that version of myself way more. The moment at work that humbled me again at the office. We had a diversity and inclusion workshop. Normally those things feel like corporate checkbox exercises, but this one hit different. The facilitator asked if anyone had ever misjudged someone because of an accent, and I found myself telling my story again. He expected blank stares or maybe some awkward silence, but instead, people actually leaned in. Priya, the coworker I mentioned before, nodded along, and another colleague, James, spoke up. Yeah, my mom has a heavy Cuban accent, and she gets treated like she's dumb. She's not dumb, she's bilingual, smarter than most of us. That room turned into one of the realest conversations I ever had at work, and I realized that by sharing my screw-up, I'd opened a door for others to talk about theirs too. It didn't make me feel redeemed, but it did make me feel like maybe my mistake could at least spark something useful. Me dad's advice. I also ended up telling my dad about all this. He grew up in the South, and while he's had his own blind spots, he's also a guy who tries to reflect more as he gets older. When I told him the whole saga, he said, son, I used to do the same thing, hear a voice, make a judgment, but then I thought about how people treated my mama because of her Appalachian twang. She sounded uneducated to folks who didn't know her, but she was the smartest woman I ever met. Accents don't measure brains or honesty, they measure where your mama raised you. That line stuck with me. Accents don't measure brains or honesty, they measure where your mama raised you. Or I've Londetti. Can't go back and undo the way I treated that woman on that first call. She never know how much I regret it, but I've let that experience rewire me now. Every time I hear an accent on the phone, I remind myself, this is a person, this is someone doing their job, this is someone's mom, dad, brother, sister. Even if it is a scam, it doesn't cost me anything to hang up with a little respect. I've also caught myself standing up in small ways. When friends start doing fake scammer voice jokes, I'll say, hey, that's not cool. My supplier had an accent, and she was legit. You never know. Sometimes it kills the joke, sometimes it sparks a real conversation. Either way, I feel better not staying silent. Final thoughts. He started this whole journey feeling smug, then guilty, then ashamed. Now, months later, I feel something else. Grateful that I got called out by reality before I lost something important. Grateful that I got the chance to grow from it, and grateful that the next time I was tested, I didn't fail. You'll never forget that pause on the phone when I interrupted her, the one where I could almost hear the exhaustion in her silence. That's my reminder every time. So yeah, this is the final update. I was a jerk because of someone's accent, but I don't want to be that guy again, and with time, I think I'm becoming someone better. Stories number 34. My frustration over a surprise date that wasn't really planned. I'm posting from a throwaway because my main account has too many personal details, and I really want an unbiased perspective on this one situation. I'm 29F, my husband is 3 and we have 2 young kids, a toddler 2 and a baby 8 months. Our life right now is exactly what you'd expect. Loud, messy, exhausting, with little pockets of sweetness in between. I love my kids more than anything, but it's been a rough stretch lately. Both of them were sick for the last 2 weeks, which meant no sleep, constant laundry, and lots of bickering between me and my husband. We've been snapping at each other over little things. Who changed more diapers? Who gets up at night? Who forgot to switch the laundry? And oh, it's just stress. But still, it adds up. So when my husband, Ryan, brought up a surprise date yesterday, I was genuinely excited. Set up. We're driving home after grabbing lunch. Nothing fancy, just burgers and fries because that's about all we can swing with 2 kids in tow. And out of nowhere he said, I know you don't like surprises. He's not wrong. I don't hate surprises, but I'm the kind of person who likes to mentally prepare if we're going somewhere nice. I want to pick out an outfit, maybe curl my hair, put on makeup that fits the vibe if we're going hiking. I want to have sneakers and sunscreen ready for me. It's not about killing the fun. It's about feeling comfortable and confident, so I asked, "Okay, what's going on?" He smiled like he was really proud of himself and said, "My mom offered to watch the kids on Sunday after I get off work, and we're going to go out on a surprise date immediately." I thought, amazing, we desperately need this, just a few hours to reconnect without sippy cups being thrown, or the baby screaming through dinner. I was already picturing maybe a nice dinner, or something low-key but special, like walking downtown and grabbing dessert. Let down. Then Ryan kept talking, said, "What would you like to do?" I was thinking maybe a movie now. I don't hate movies, but they're more his thing than mine. He's a huge action and Marvel fan, and whenever we go to the movies, he picks something he's been dying to see. I usually end up watching explosions on a giant screen while mentally making a grocery list. Not exactly my idea of romance, so I said, "Hey, maybe what else were you thinking?" That's when he dropped it on me. "I don't know, you can look for a restaurant for us or something else to do." Cue the record scratch. Becky's suddenly. This surprise date didn't feel like a surprise at all. It felt like me, once again, doing the planning. We just hit and nerve. Here's the thing. I plan everything, and I mean everything: vacations, my holiday gifts for his family, my family photos, birthdays, our toddler's Halloween costume, medit nights. It's not that Ryan doesn't help with the kids or the house. He does, he's a good dad, but when it comes to organizing and planning, the mental load always falls on me. I've brought it up before, and he usually says something like, "But you're so good at it," which, let's be honest, is just a nice way of saying, "I don't want to." So, when he announced this surprise date, I thought, finally he's taking the reins, he's thought this through, he's got something in mind. But instead, it's basically, "My mom will babysit you, figure out the rest." Since then, he's been texting me links to restaurants like he's scrolling Yelp for 5 minutes between breaks at work and forwarding them to me. "What about this place? This one looks nice, what do you want to eat?" And every time, it chips away at the little excitement that had left way. It feels it's not that I don't want to spend time with him, I do, but I was so bummed because I just wanted, for once, to show up and feel like he put thought into something just for you. He wanted to get dressed up, be told what time to be ready, and walk out the door without making a single decision. I wanted him to own it, instead of leaning on me to fill in the blanks. Instead, it feels like one more thing on my to-do list: plan the babysitter bag, plan the restaurant, plan the night, smile and act like I'm surprised. Part of me wants to just cancel, tell him, if I have to plan it, it's not a surprise date, let's just stay home and save the effort. But then the other part of me thinks, maybe I'm being ungrateful, maybe I should just appreciate that his mom, Linda, is offering to watch the kids, and that Ryan at least made an attempt. It's rare we even get out of the house together, so maybe I'm sabotaging something good by nitpicking the details where I'm stuck. So here's the question I can't get out of my head. Am I wrong for wanting to cancel this so-called surprise date because it doesn't feel like he actually planned it? Or is it fair to be frustrated that he took credit for planning something when he basically handed it all back to me? Because right now, I'm just sitting here feeling disappointed, and I don't know if that makes me ungrateful or just exhausted. Update: my frustration over a surprise date that wasn't really planned. So, I didn't cancel the date, I almost did. I had half a text drafted on Saturday night saying, "Let's just stay home. I'm too tired," but I stopped myself, partly because I wanted to give Ryan the benefit of the doubt, and partly because my mom voice kicked in like, "Don't waste free babysitting if you're a parent with toddlers. You know those moments are rare." How the night went on Sunday: Ryan's mom, Linda, showed up right after he got home from work. She was excited, practically shoving us out the door with, "Go, go. I've got the kids, don't worry about a thing." That helped a little because it made the evening feel more official. Ryan was clearly trying. He even said, "Just be ready by 6, I'll take care of it," which sounded promising. Until we got in the car, and he turned to me with, "So did you decide on a place?" I had to laugh, because if I didn't, I was going to cry. I told him, "Ryan, this is exactly what I meant. You said you planned a surprise, but you're still asking me to plan dinner." He got defensive right away. "I sent you links. I thought you'd pick something you actually like." I said, "That's not planning, that's outsourcing the decision to me. I just wanted one night where I didn't have to think about it." We drove in silence for a while, and it was awkward. Finally, he sighed and said, "Okay, I messed this up. Let's just pick somewhere simple and talk about it." We ended up at an Italian place downtown, not fancy, but cozy, and honestly, once we sat down, I started to relax. The breadsticks help had conversation over pasta. We finally had a real conversation about why I was so frustrated. He told him how exhausted I am from carrying the mental load, not just meals and dates, but everything: school forms, pediatrician appointments, family events, even remembering to buy birthday cards for his brother. Nikki said, "When you say you've planned something, I want to feel like you actually thought it through. Otherwise, it feels like you're slapping a bow on my own work and calling it a gift." He looked guilty and also admitted something I didn't expect. "I get overwhelmed trying to think of all the details. You're so good at it. And I feel like if I plan it, I'll mess it up and you'll be disappointed." That was a gut punch because in a way, I realized I'd set that pattern. I do tend to tweak his plans or take over when I think I can do it better, maybe not intentionally, but enough that he started outsourcing by default. We sat there for a long time, hashing it out. I told him, I don't need perfection, I just need effort, even if he picks a mediocre restaurant or we end up seeing a silly movie. The fact that he thought it through matters more than nailing the perfect date. A small win after dinner. He surprised me in the smallest but sweetest way. He drove us to a little dessert cafe I mentioned once months ago. I didn't even remember bringing it up, but he did. We shared cheesecake and coffee, and I actually felt like we were dating again instead of just co-parents in survival mode. It wasn't groundbreaking, it wasn't fancy, but it felt intentional, and that made all the difference. Where we landed on the drive home, we made an agreement. Once a month, Ryan will plan something for just the two of us. No outsourcing, no asking me to pick. It doesn't have to be a big event. Even grabbing ice cream after the kids are asleep counts, but it has to be his idea, carried through from start to finish. And in return, I promised I'd stop nitpicking if his idea isn't perfect, because at the end of the day, I don't want a flawless plan. I just want to feel like he's in it with me, instead of waiting for me to lead all the time. Final thoughts on the night. Did it sting at first that the surprise wasn't really a surprise? Yeah, but by the end of the night, we actually reconnected in a way we haven't in months. The food was good, the dessert was sweet, and the conversation was needed. So no, I'm not canceling date nights. If anything, I'm realizing how badly we need them, even if they start with a rocky car ride and end with cheesecake. Final update. What happened after the surprise date? It's been about 5 months since I wrote my original post, and a lot of you asked for an update on whether Ryan followed through with planning dates or if things just slid back into the old pattern. Spoiler: it's been a mix of progress, stumbles, and some honest-to-God growing pains. 1. Cautious optimism. First official planned date night Ryan did was actually really sweet. He picked a small Mexican restaurant near the lake that I'd never been to, and then he drove us around afterwards listening to music like we used to when we were dating. It wasn't elaborate, but it felt thoughtful, and I left that night genuinely hopeful. 2. The stumble. Second month. He forgot, like fully forgot, until the day before when I asked, "Hey, what's the plan this weekend?" 2 wide eyes, a muttered curse, and a scramble to book a bowling alley. Last minute we still went, but I'll be honest, I was frustrated. He admitted later that he just hadn't put it in his calendar and thought I'll remember. We all know how that goes. So had a pretty tense conversation. After that I told him, I'm not looking for grand gestures, I'm looking for consistency. Forgetting feels worse than not trying at all. That hit him, because he really did want to do betterment. 3. Turning point. The third month. He'd started setting reminders in his phone and asking his mom, Linda, in advance to babysit. Bless her. She's been a lifesaver and seems to love having an excuse to soak up more grandbaby time. That month, Ryan surprised me with tickets to a local art exhibit I'd mentioned once in passing. He even packed a little picnic for us to eat at the park beforehand. That's when I realized he was finally getting it, that it wasn't about big money or fancy gestures, but paying attention and taking initiative. Mental load conversation. Outside of dates, we also had more serious talks about the bigger picture, the invisible mental load of parenting and running a household. I told him how exhausting it is being the default for everything, and he admitted he'd been coasting because I was so good at handling it. That's not a compliment, that's learned helplessness. Made some changes. Ryan now handles all doctor's appointments for our son. Liam's in charge of making sure our daughter, Sophie, always has diapers and wipes stocked, and he does grocery pickup every other week. It doesn't sound huge, but for me it's been life-changing not to have to think about every single thing. Where we are now. So 5 months later, we've had more dates than we did in the entire previous year. Some were simple: burgers and a walk, a drive to get milkshakes, watching a movie at a small theater, but every single one was his idea. And that matters, though I still sometimes get annoyed. Of course, marriage with kids is messy, And Ryan is not magically a master planner now, but I don't feel like I'm begging for scraps of effort anymore. He's showing up in ways he wasn't before. And that's made me feel less like a manager and more like a partner. Again, what I've learned, surfaces don't need to be Pinterest perfect. They just need to be intentional. Managing without micromanaging is hard for me, but necessary. If I always swoop in, Ryan never gets the chance to step up. And honestly, cheesecake still solves a lot of problems. Final note: if anyone out there is drowning in the mental load of parenting and partnership, speak up. Don't swallow the resentment until you explode. Having the uncomfortable conversation is worth it. Trian and I are far from perfect, but that one rocky surprise date night was the beginning of us finally getting on the same page, and I'm grateful he didn't just let it slide back into the same old cycle.